Thomas and Matthew standing strong, they won't budge. Against the tide of hate, they never give an inch. Candace drops her lies, but they bring the truth to light. Gonna tear down her facade, won't let her dim their fight. Voices rise, it's a battle to reclaim the narrative. Ishkalupko ready to bring it back imperative. Ishkalupko standing tall for all to see. Thomas and Matthew champions for liberty. Words like weapons piercing through the night. Candace can't hide, don't make this wrong feel right. Apologist at his core. World War debates, history twisted, it's a chore. But Matthew's words are sharp, slicing through the lies. And together they'll uplift, watch the truth arise. Travel bans won't silence, they're breaking through. With strength in their voices, they'll expose the view. Ishkaluk girls standing tall for all to see. Thomas and Matthew champions for liberty. Words like weapons piercing through the night. Candace can't hide, don't make this wrong feel right. Hard truths echo, the fight doesn't end. Ishkaluk forever, they're the truth we'll defend. Our truths echo, stairsing through the night. Candace can't hide, don't make this wrong feel right.
Okay, what you just heard was the accordion drill theme. It made me laugh, and anyway, welcome to Gish Gallop Girl. My name is Thomas Anderson. I'm here with
Matthew Anderson,
who is, unfortunately, at the end of a head cold.
Yeah.
So, we are, you may hear him cough occasionally. He's going to try to not dominate the sound. So, yeah, I actually... I had the Donna AI app build that song earlier when I was in Plymouth at the Plymouth Ice Center, and there was like one of the you know the big rink that has like the private schools banners at it. Yeah, I was at that one, and some school group, I assume, was using it. It looked like a hockey girls team.
Okay.
Yeah, they were.
Was it white and black jerseys?
Nah, they were kind of whatever.
Okay.
There wasn't it was a practice.
Okay.
Yeah. They were doing different drills and stuff, and I was, getting a lot of the production stuff set up for tonight, and it was so nice in there. It was so cold, and I like that arena, which I think is Rink C. I like that one because of all the tables that are right there.
Yeah.
So I can kind of set up all my equipment. Mm-hmm. And have a comfortable workspace in a nice, very cold room.
What's funny about that is if you go during the right season, some people might think that you're a coach setting up plays.
Yeah, I know. Or like a scout.
God, have you ever gone to one of those one of the hockey rinks and you just see like three dudes sitting there on a bench next to each other on their laptops looking up at the players and just scowling as they look down at their plays and just nope. And then the coach down on the ground just starts yelling belligerently at everyone, and it's like, what the hell?
Well, we are going to we're actually back into blackout this week. Something happened. I'll get to it at the end of the episode. Something important happened with Candace, and we're going to discuss that at the end of tonight's episode. But for this week, this is episode 20, and we are in the part of Blackout, chapter 6 on education. This section is called Public School Trap. I'm not sure if Candace knows that the word trap is a derogatory term for trans persons, but I also hope that no one tells her. I had hoped that we would be able to only do one more episode here in Chapter 6, but it is longer than I thought, and it's broken up into short pieces, so we're kind of stuck there for a minute. Still, though, there is only one other actual notation in the notes section for this chapter. I'd like to remind y'all that this chapter, the longest one in Blackout to this point, only has 2 reference notes at the back. Candace starts this section off by talking about how when she was in kindergarten, she had a friend named Laura, and she was invited to Laura's house to play. And when she went to this other little girl's parents' home, she was shocked to see that they were very wealthy. Candace goes on to bemoan how the public school system teaches black kids to hate their white oppressors, and that the schools teach them that they aren't responsible for social sins because of past oppressions that black communities have suffered. To be clear, she isn't saying that she hated her friend in any way. She is saying that the way her friend's family lived, as white and successful, would have been frowned upon by her education. Again, she cites no sources for this outlook. Candace is leaning into the alt-right talking point that the schools teach BIPOC persons to despise white people for being successful. You know what BIPOC means, right?
Before BIPOC, I'm just confused as to what her... I don't know. I'm just a little confused by that last bit.
Okay.
She gets invited over to her friend's house. Her friend turns out to be wealthy.
Yeah.
And then she goes on to just go. In school, I was taught to hate my white oppressors. Like, I'm confused.
Yeah, well, she goes on with that because she's like, you know, she's like, if I had followed my public school education, I would have thought that, you know, her family gained money by, like, you know, illicit means or illegal means, or, you know, by putting people down, and that my family was poor because they were ones that got put down. She said, you know, instead of being taught that, hey, maybe my dad made a lot of bad financial decisions, maybe my mom could have worked harder, and so on. She's like, you know, so she goes on to say that the schools teach a victim narrative.
Okay.
To BIPOC kids, you know, black and black and indigenous people of color.
Okay.
Yeah, they teach them, you know, that there's always some white man somewhere pushing them down and all of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's like, yeah, you know, had I followed that line of thinking, I could have easily been jealous or hated Laura, but she was my best friend, you know, in kindergarten or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the gist of that a bit. But
okay.
Yeah, so I would like to point out that, you know, the schools do not typically teach that white people should be hated for being successful. Plenty of successful people, by whatever means one achieves success, have done so without exploiting others. The problems we see in society are almost entirely to do with the bad apples actively fighting or refusing to pay their taxes, or both, their fair share of taxes and fees to operate within the legal framework of the world around them. This is true not only in America, but in other countries as well. Candace seems to have missed the entire point of Jesus telling his followers to pay their damn taxes. It's in the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone asks him, you know, they were trying to, like, get him in a gotcha moment, and it's like, I have a feeling that if Jesus was a real dude,
yeah,
he was blessed with being, like, the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Blessed and cursed with it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he had an answer for everything. And one of them was like, well, you know, someone brought up like how corrupt the government was and shit. Like, you know, should we pay our taxes, basically? Like, should we fund this bullshit? And he was like, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yeah.
Like, this money shit doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
If they want it, just give it to them. Who cares? You know? So, yeah. Like, but back to the public schools. In true Candace fashion, she of course provides no proof of her statements about white America from textbooks, nor does she quote statements from teachers that would back up her assertions. She doesn't even provide piecemeal quotes, which I suppose is good and shows some coherence to her own standard. She moves on into a section titled Refusing to Choose. And that's where we are stopping on Blackout for this week. It's time to move on to the Candace show for the week of September 3rd through the 6th. There were only 4 episodes this week, which isn't normal for her output, as there was no Monday episode. Anyway, welcome to Candace Show episode 57.
All right, guys, happy Tuesday. I'm excited today because finally the media has told the truth and the whole truth about something that I actually said. This was a real headline. How great is this? It just says that Candace Owens, far-right pundit Candace Owens, claims TikTok is socially engineering men to be gay. I did indeed say that. I also said that it's other apps as well, but TikTok especially, yeah, we're starting to see algorithms that are encouraging men to be homosexual. But first, you guys, more importantly, I'd like to take a second to pour some out for my fallen homie, Tucker Carlson, a moment of silence, because he is over. I am talking over, career canceled, done with, do not listen to a word he says anymore. Because I've been reliably informed by the people that I absolutely can't stand and never listen to that Tucker has committed the gravest of sins for which he shall never be forgiven. Yeah, he hosted a monster on his platform who said some things that were completely unsayable, and so yes, hashtag cancel Tucker Carlson, I guess, or whatever. That's what's coming up on Candace.
So that's how she starts the week off, with no mention of what happened on Monday. Doesn't even acknowledge that she didn't do a show, which is odd. Usually she has some explanation, but having listened to the rest of the week, I can tell you that I don't recall it coming up. Anyway, let's start things off by pouring one out for the Tuckered Out podcast while we hear Candace discussing the Tucker Swanson Carlson show from Twitter. Fuck you, Elon, for supporting and enabling this stupid elitist asshole.
Every time that you say Swanson, I get just a flash in my head of Joe Swanson from fucking
from Family Guy. You're right. I forgot Officer Joe's last name was Swanson. So, here we are.
I'm not kidding you guys. Trending right now, this very minute, over on X. The trend reads, Tucker Carlson platforms, you guessed it, Nazi apologetics. Oh, Tucker, no, my man. How could you descend into this sort of chaos? Surely you're not doing this. Am I the only person that when I see this, I just instantly go, okay, definitely, probably not what's happening at all. What's really probably happening is there's a conversation that the media's henchmen do not want the public to hear. And so you're probably thinking, who did he host? My gosh, it must have been some crazy KK Klansman who was waiting for years, got his hood on. They must be talking about terrible things. He must have had on a literal neo-Nazi. No. Of course, it's never that, you guys. He had on, and this really actually is what I would term a neo-Nazi, because today they are making it so that if you know history, if you speak about history outside of the confines of the mainstream media, then you are, in fact, a New Age Nazi. They can't allow that. You're not allowed to know things. We're supposed to be living in this ever-present, This is the Orwellian agenda. There is no history. It's just the present. It's just the now. And so who did he actually have on? Well, Tucker Carlson tweeted this alongside a very long interview with a historian who looks really friendly. His name is Daryl Cooper. Tucker Carlson wrote, Daryl Cooper may be the best and most honest popular historian in the United States. His latest project is the most forbidden of all, trying to understand World War II.
So you may be asking, who the fuck is Daryl Cooper?
Yeah, I've seen plenty of historians on my YouTube reels, never Daryl Cooper.
There are reasons for that.
Ah.
Yeah. Tucker refers to him as a popular historian. But I think populist and revisionist alt-right asshole does a better job. He has no formal historian schooling and has never authored anything approaching a formal review. He's the flavor of the moment in the alt-right world right now due to some insane shit he said on Tucker this week. But to answer the question, the dude is just a podcaster like us, but we don't pretend to be historians. I mean, hell, I appreciate history, of course, but I certainly didn't major in it for the brief time I was in college. I have easily done more critical research and work doing this show across 20 episodes now than I probably ever did in school. But I would never claim the credential of being a historian, even if we were at several hundred episodes, That's fucking absurd.
I can't tell you how much of the time between World War I and World War II I've had to look up and research for my D&D campaign, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
Because I have a game that's taking place in between the two. So I have to make sure that I keep historical events to a T going through. Otherwise I start World War II early or abolish it before it can happen.
Right. Well, anyway, I tried to look up when Candace might have seen the documentary 1945, The Savage Peace, because she goes into another rant about it and I came up empty. It was important to me that I try to establish that because for something she is such a crusader for, I could find no mention of it on her last show or this year prior to July 10th and 11th. Anyway.
Oh, and that's how you know you are going to get canceled. You are not allowed to talk about World War II. They spent so much money, so many years putting us all in a classroom and severely propagandizing us to believe this is good and this is evil and there is no in between. This is black and this is white and there is no in between. Carefully orchestrated an agenda that they shared with us and we all believed it, and God forbid somebody interjects now and then another fact. I did this, by the way. This is how I really got on their bad people list. Like, Candace has got to go. We hate her. I shared with the public. It all began with me sharing that documentary that I saw. And the backstory was that a priest said Winston Churchill was a war criminal. A priest told me that. A priest from London told me that. And I said, what are you talking?
Before I let her finish this clip, she has never, before now, said that Winston Churchill was a war criminal because of that, because a priest fucking told her.
Also,
her story to this point has been, a priest told me you Americans know nothing about World War II.
A British priest.
Yeah.
Also, the fuck did Winston ever do?
Oh boy. According to these people, we're going to get there. I'm going to let her finish, though.
I swear she
about Winston Churchill, like the hero, and he said he was a war criminal, and you should watch this documentary, The Savage Peace. And it blew my mind. It blew my mind that a genocide could have happened in peacetime, executed by the Allies, and nobody told us. That is what blew my mind. Again, PBS and BBC documentary, not a Candace Owens documentary, as they would...
Okay. She may have seen it on PBS, because PBS here, depending on where you live, they have aired it. I looked into that. They have aired it. I couldn't find, I looked up PBS Nashville.
Yeah.
Because that's where she fucking is. And I couldn't find where they might have aired it. The only thing I would have been able to do, and I didn't really think about it until now, I could have emailed the station.
Yeah.
And asked, when did you guys air this? Because, again, on her old channel, she didn't really talk about this.
Yeah.
But the thing, The Savage Peace, has been out for a while.
Yeah.
I want to say it came out in 2014 or 2015, something like that. So it's been out for a while. The BBC made it. PBS has re-aired it at random ass times because they're not a traditional network. They're not NBC or whatever. But still, for someone that will, again, shit talk a public resource like PBS, and then to use it as I saw this on there. Fuck you.
Also, if a British priest tells you Winston Churchill was a war criminal, watch this documentary for proof.
This documentary that has fuck all to do with England. Where Churchill was. That has fuck all to do with England, that takes place in Czechoslovakia. I can't emphasize that enough. It takes place in fucking Czechoslovakia, where they were not allies in the war.
Yeah.
They fell to Russia, to the Soviets, because they were closer. Mm-hmm. They fell to the Soviets. They were not allies of the Allies.
Yeah.
They fell to Nazis first, and they were a major production factory for Nazi soldiers. I've said it a bunch, and I'll keep saying it as often as I feel I have to on this show, but that was not an Allies situation. No. The Allies were done. The war was over, and Czechoslovakia love them or hate them, handled their Nazis.
Yeah.
They handled the suspected ones and the known ones.
Most of those...
I don't 100% approve, but I understand.
Yeah, most of those little countries in there... I mean, they have their own power, but most of those little countries in there that either A, weren't part of the Allies, or B, were much like Russia and just like, we're just here to help you guys because we don't like them more than we don't like you.
Yeah.
So we're just here to fucking help you. Yeah. But the moment this is all said and done, you get the fuck out of our country and don't worry about the Nazis. Leave them. We'll deal with them.
Yeah. We've got them rounded up. We're going to deal with them.
Yeah.
They won't come back to power. Trust us. Yeah. You know, like...
Most of them handled their own execution runs. They didn't bother with the Hague.
Yeah. You know, and I'm pretty sure that the Hague already being with a full schedule was probably like, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. We got the ones we need. You do the thing.
Yeah.
You do the thing, and we're not going to worry about it.
Govern yourself on this one.
Yeah.
We trust you.
So here we go. I included the PBS thing in case everyone needed a little refresher. Anyway, continuing.
Have you believe. So anyways, I knew when I saw that tweet that Tucker Carlson did maybe the same thing. He interjected or had somebody interject some alternative facts. And of course, when you start speaking about World War II and you understand how severely propagandized we were, you inevitably start speaking about the mainstream media and what exactly those classrooms are for. So I'll show you this first clip where they're just talking about the topic of propaganda in general. Take a listen.
So that's what bothers me about the recording of history. I mean, I think what happens matters, reality matters. And if you find that sort of everything that happens, not just 80 years ago in Dresden, but things that are happening in like LA County 20 years ago, if they just disappear, you know, in some cases you can't even find them on Google. Like that's a level of manipulation that's just mind control. That's really scary and dangerous.
And I think the propagandists throughout the 20th century, ever since the sort of the rise of mass media, have really understood that that's exactly what it is. You know, especially once it goes on for a generation or two, and kids are raised up, and this is what they're being taught, because it forms for them their not just their view of the world, but their view of themselves. Like our identities as individuals and our identities that we attach ourselves to collectively are all a result of the stories we tell ourselves.
That's right.
And that we hear as we're growing up. And so if you change those stories, all of those things change as well.
Okay, first, if Tucker can't find out about the bombing of Dresden or the LA riots or anything like that, then his Google foo is fucking weak sauce.
Yeah.
If the people he employs can't find that stuff, then it's probably because they don't want to do so. With a boss like Tucker, I can understand a certain level of wanting to make the boss look like a moron, because it isn't hard to do, and everyone needs an easy dunk every now and then. But as for Cooper's bit at the end about stories mattering and seeing yourself in stories mattering, fucking duh. That's one reason among many that there has been a push to make fiction media and nonfiction media more inclusive of everyone over the last few years. But that shit is baffling bullshit coming from this guy, because saying that the Nazis were, bad is not propaganda. Jesus fuck.
Clearly he's never picked up Battlefield 1 before.
Yeah. Ugh.
I mean, shit, the first mission in Battlefield 1, the tutorial mission as it is, that gets you kind of used to, because there's a mission where you die and have to swap bodies back and forth of people's stories.
Yeah.
Well, that tutorial mission, at the very end of it, it's the battle in no man's land, and everything just gets bombed, and there's two soldiers left standing, and they both just kind of look at each other, rifles raised, and they both just go, no.
Yeah.
Drop their rifles, and just look around at the destruction around them.
Yeah.
It's... If you want something to interject yourself into World War I or II, that's
those games are excellent, yeah. The single-player modes on those games are excellent.
Oh, yeah.
So, here's the next clip.
Look at that guy. Where's his little mustache? You just look at him. So much evil. You can really understand why they are angry, why people are upset, why there are calls to get Tucker canceled. How could he host this monster on his show who's speaking about how we all get sort of programmed when we're children and it becomes a part of our identity, and then when somebody introduces an alternative fact, you kind of go, wait a minute, why wasn't I told this a lot earlier? And can you imagine if that fact that they're trying to introduce to you is that Winston Churchill, who essentially, like, we are trained up to believe in classrooms across the West, was just the greatest hero of all time, one of the greatest heroes of all time? Could you imagine the fact that they're interjecting is that maybe he wasn't, like maybe he wanted the war to happen, like maybe he was serving some other masters other than the public? Like, that would be so crazy. Please, Tucker, don't do that. Oh no, he's about to. Daryl Cooper, take it away.
Yes, so before we move on here, alternative facts. This is a term that has been in use since the Trump administration. When it gained prominence early on from Trump's White House counselor Kellyanne Conway on the show Meet the Press to describe why White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer was using inflated numbers to describe Trump's crowd sizes in official statements that were way off the mark.
Yeah.
For Candace to use this term to describe deliberate falsehoods, or more accurately, fucking lies, is not a mistake. She uses this term often, especially lately. And yes, over the next several minutes, Daryl Cooper is going to be saying some fucking lies.
As soon as that war's wrapped up on the German side, Hitler starts firing off peace proposals to Britain and France because they had already declared war. He didn't expect them to declare war, actually. Like, there's a famous scene where he kind of throws a fit when he finds out that they did do that. And so he doesn't want to fight France. He doesn't want to fight Britain. He feels that's going to weaken Europe when we've got this huge threat to the east, the communist threat over there. And he starts firing off peace proposals. He says, let's not do this. Like, we can't do this. And of course, a year goes by, 1940 comes around, and they're still at war. And so he launches his invasion to the west, takes over France, takes over Western and Northern Europe. Once that's done, the British have, escaped at Dunkirk. There's no British force left on the continent. There's no opposing force left on the continent. In other words, the war is over, and the Germans won. Okay.
But by what point?
Fall of 1940, right? So there's literally no opposing force on the continent. And throughout that summer, Adolf Hitler is firing off radio broadcasts, giving speeches, literally sending planes over to drop leaflets over London and other British cities, trying to get the message to these people that Germany does not want to fight you. Like, we don't want to fight you. Offering peace proposals that, it said, you keep all your overseas colonies. We don't want any of that. We want Britain to be strong. The world needs Britain to be strong, especially as we face this communist threat and so forth. Like, this is what's going on. And I think that if there were people in Britain who, if they hadn't put it this way, if they hadn't been so successful at delegitimizing the peace approach by demonizing Neville Chamberlain and so forth and holding him responsible for the invasion of Poland, that people would have been, they would have understood, like, we don't need a repeat of the First World War. We don't, which is not what ended up happening, but that's what everybody thought was going to happen. And so Churchill, you have a guy, Churchill wanted a war. He wanted to fight Germany. And the reason that I don't begrudge him that, people can national leaders, you can fight whoever you want. If you feel like your the long-term interests of the British Empire are threatened by the rise of a powerful continental power like Germany, and you need to check that those are great power games, and you play them the way you feel like you need to play them. That's fine. The reason I resent Churchill so much for it is that he kept this war going when he had no way to go back and fight this war. All he had were bombers. He was literally, by 1940, sending bomber fleets to go firebomb the Black Forest, just to burn down sections of the Black Forest. Just rank terrorism, going through and starting to, what eventually became just the carpet bombing, the saturation bombing of civilian neighborhoods, to kill, is the purpose of which was to kill as many civilians as possible. And all the men were out in the field, all the fighting age men were out in the field. And so this is old people, it's women and children, and they knew that, and they were wiping these places out. it was gigantic scaled terrorist attacks, the greatest, scale of terrorist attacks you've ever seen in world history.
Why would he do that?
Because it was the only means that they had to continue fighting at the time. They didn't have the ability to reinvade Europe. And so he needed to keep this war going until he accomplished what he hoped to accomplish. We know now there's actually a really great series of books. It's one of the best. I recommend it to everybody, but it's really expensive now, and it's 6 long volumes called History of British Special Operations in the Second World War. And one of the books gets into the level of just the extent of media operations, propaganda operations, everything that they were running in the United States to eventually drag us into that war.
Yeah, I labeled this clip Annoyed Scream.
Yeah.
Because I looked into everything he said.
Mm-hmm.
One thing at a time. It's almost entirely false, with a few non-lie words like "the" and stuff strung in to, string it all together.
Yeah. Filler words, if you will.
Yeah. Such as, Hitler did send out peace proposals after the British and French both declared war on Germany in September 3rd, 1939. They did this because he chose to start the Blitzkrieg of Poland on September the 1st. And both countries had agreements with Poland that they would support it if anyone came attacking Poland. Germany knew this, the public knew this, and the Nazis didn't give a shit. Mm-hmm. They took Poland within about 3 weeks because they were prepared to blitz them, and the others were slower to respond because mounting a war effort takes time. The Nazis managed to have a massive presence in Europe around the end of 1940. But even with help from local forces such as those in Czechoslovakia, they were spread thin, and Britain had enough forces to protect itself and stave off the Nazis. The Nazis were fierce on the continent and decided to continue the continental land grab by engaging the Soviets. But Britain had plenty of arms and vehicles. They weren't bombing innocent women and children solely in Germany. They were bombing factories supporting the war effort. And yes, parts of this could be seen as an attempt to sow terror and demoralize people, but guess who had done that shit first to innocent people? The fucking Nazis had done it to the Polish, the French, and so on. People in Britain and on the continent had seen what Nazi peace looked like, and part of that peace was to put Jews and other undesirables on trains to the work camps. One of the things that halted the advance of the Nazis that he fails to mention were the resistance movements in the various occupied territories. Lastly, Daryl Cooper completely made up the title of the book series he just mentioned.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It would probably be very expensive to retrieve that book series, since nothing like it exists in this universe as yet.
It sounds like a good book series.
Yeah. Well, we don't have the equipment to go to the section or sections of the multiverse where we would find it.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
Fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Candace is about to support this version of history with her own fuckery, but before we get to that, let me tell you what happened. So, I go looking for this book series, right?
Yeah.
I don't find it anywhere, so I'm like, all right. So I start doing other things to try to find it, or something like it. I found a lot of book series like it.
Okay.
That came out during the war.
Okay.
A lot of them authored by Winston Churchill or his direct, subordinates.
Yeah.
About the war effort. They were designed to keep the morale of the people going, show the United States, hey, keep helping us fund this shit.
Yeah.
They were doing everything they could do. So there are these volumes that came out during that time. But all that shit he said is fucking lies.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff was not made for the general public necessarily. It was made for American war commanders and stuff. Well, anyway, I go and I keep looking, and I put this thing into there. And finally, what I come up with is there's a Daryl Cooper focused subreddit, because of course there is.
Yeah.
And someone on there had posted up the question, where is this book series that he mentioned on Tucker? A fan of his had posted that question.
Yeah.
I went into there and I said something to the effect of, it doesn't exist because he's a fucking liar.
Yeah.
And I went off for a few paragraphs. And I put in the podcast information because why the fuck wouldn't I? It's not my name on there. And I throw the podcast out as often as I can on Reddit. But anyway, so yeah, if you're listening to this, guy who responded, thank you. There were two people that responded to me directly. One was someone who sounded, pretty decent. He's like, oh, I assume it's a he. Excuse me if I'm wrong. But they were like, oh, the podcast sounds like a cool concept. I'll check it out. Thank you if you did. The other person said, he said something to the effect of, how about instead of doing ad hominem attacks on Daryl Cooper, you actually do research? And I was like, I have to research every fucking lie that comes out of Candace Owens' mouth during my week.
Yeah.
And now I have to research this fucking asshole because he was mentioned. I do my research, unlike these dipshits that get to say whatever they want. Because no one's going to fucking fact check them. People are just going to say, oh yeah, sure, that matches up with my bias. So fuck you. I got no response from that. I kind of expected one. They didn't delete their comment, but, I kind of expected a response. Like, I expected something, but, because I'm not out there trolling. I'm like, I was like, fuck this guy. Mm-hmm. This doesn't exist. He's a fucking liar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, like I said in the scripture, Candace is about to sport his version of history with her own fuckery.
Oh, God.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm not listening. Arrest that man. Where is the ministry of truth? By the way, anything that he just said, don't listen to that. I wanted to show you what not to listen to because that man is crazy. That man is like literally Hitler. I can't believe Tucker Carlson would do this. How dare you interject alternative facts? We put together these textbooks because we wanted to make sure that Americans, people in the West, went rah, 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 everything Winston Churchill did was okay. And so when crazy people, I am talking kooky people like Candace Owens get up there and they're like, hey, Dresden was kind of a Holocaust. It happened like on Ash Wednesday, the eve of Ash Wednesday, that's kind of wrong. Then you freak out. And someone like Tucker Carlson gets on Joe Rogan and he's like, hey, dropping a bomb was a war crime, a nuclear bomb on praying Catholics in Nagasaki. Yeah, it's not a good thing to go, oh my gosh, get this man off the airwaves. I just cannot believe I am sitting through another person saying these things. How dare you say that murdering innocent civilians, women and children is wrong? It's monstrous. And so what are we going to do? How are we going to take care of this guy? Well, we're going to make sure that we crush his reputation. That's what we do to defeat our opponents. We crush their reputation. I demand he lose his job, Daryl Cooper, wherever he works. I don't even know where he works. He's an historian. Don't care. Okay? He better lose his job. And if he does lose his job and he survives it like Tucker Carlson and then he still has a huge audience, well, then we just got to ramp up the truth, which is that man's a liar. And so, lo and behold, you hop onto Twitter and people are freaking out. And of course, one of these weird things about when they freak out is they never point out which fact is wrong. They never do that. No, they never say like that person's factually incorrect. They just start calling you names. And it's beautiful to see that they just keep running the exact same play. Imagine going to a football game and they just keep running the exact same play, expecting the other side not to catch on. Oh, you're going to run that same offensive play? Yeah, well, the defense might catch on that you're doing the exact same thing. But these guys, no, not these heroes. Not all heroes wear capes. And the people that are on Twitter today, let me show you how they reacted to this conversation that Tucker had where they introduced some alternative, another way of saying it is forbidden facts of truth. Here we go.
We're not going to play the Twitter takes portion because I did bother to read some of the reactions and people did clown on him with actual facts, dates, citations, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Daryl Cooper's entire job is getting history wrong on his podcast. Mm-hmm. I did have a fun moment when I was looking up the series that he fucking made up whole cloth on the subreddit, and I talked about that already. Yeah, I said fuck a lot during that thing because I was really hot about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Candace goes on a long rant after the tweet storm about how much the media sucks for not believing the same Nazi propaganda that she does.
It's laughable. You should laugh. You should laugh because these people cannot see how insufferable they are. They don't understand. They cannot comprehend that nobody likes them. They're, like I said, what's really happened now is they just created their own echo chamber. They're all speaking to each other, signaling to each other, writing articles to each other, and yeah, they'll get a few hits. The boomers might believe the narrative that Tucker Carlson really went on there and defended Nazis and Hitler, just like every single person that they don't like. They charge them with the same made-up crime that nobody actually did, because what we're actually doing is we're reading books. When we start to read books, we start to read these historians, we're very, very shocked by how little we knew. And then we start to realize that the media is not our friend, the media is the enemy. And the American people have accepted that as the reality. And the American people hate you, okay? They hate you. We all hate you, and you just can't see it. No one is going to stop listening to Tucker Carlson, but everyone has stopped listening to you. Because you just have this air of pretension about you. Like, how are you not sick of yourselves? How do you not look in the mirror and want to vomit because of your hubris, because of the way that you look at people? You resent people for not listening to you. That's literally it. You have decided that you are the authorities, right? You are so authoritarian in your own mind that you've started to hate people who don't believe you. And let me be very clear. We don't believe you. And we hate you right back. Go away. We've heard you already. We're all Nazis. We're all white supremacists. We're all Hitler lovers. We're all backwards. We're not cool. We can't eat rubber chicken with you. We don't want to. Go away. Write your stupid hit pieces about Tucker Carlson. And you know what's going to happen tomorrow? He's still going to be at the top of the Spotify charts. So plan your next move. What is it? A totalitarian regime, which you're already trying to implement? You're going to get him banned from movement. You're going to say Tucker Carlson can't leave Florida. Go plan your next step, because we're not going backwards anymore.
He can
You
stay in
hate
Florida.
us, and we hate you
I'm
right
fine with that.
back.
Yeah.
So kudos to Tucker. Kudos to Daryl Cooper. Kudos to every single person that believes the people that they are speaking to have a right to think. Because that's what it is. They have a right to think. They have a right to know. And we don't need people maintaining boundaries for us. And that's all I want to say about that topic. All right, guys, I want to take a brief pause to remind you about Preborn, obviously.
I'm sorry, you get into Preborn after admitting that you're a Hitler lover? That's kind of redundant.
Yeah, well, you know, as long as the Nazi babies are getting born, she's totally cool.
Right, yeah.
Well, as long as the Nazi babies are getting born, and the non-Nazi babies are getting born, so that they can do all the work for the Nazi babies.
Don't forget, all of them, though, have to be christened after whatever time it takes for you to christen a baby. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever the Catholic rule on that is.
Yeah.
Because it's the only church. Yeah, so Candace, quote, "I don't hate anyone," unquote, Owens, just showed us who she is again. A person defending Nazi revisionism, hosting a show manned by a team of people that could have looked into Cooper's bullshit as easily as I did. His own fans of his show couldn't figure out what the fuck he was talking about. And his website, by the way, has a transcript of the entire Tucker appearance. It has a transcript, a full fucking transcript. Candace 100% didn't have to defend him, but she did it because that's what that team does. Nazis ruin everything, but their propaganda people stick together.
Yep.
Guys, now let's get into this little fun update. I loved this so much. I gotta throw it to my Australian people. I love to see that the people are just more awake and jumping right back into this topic of the media who so clearly resents us. Like I really do view it now where everything that I'm watching in the political scene just feels like a movie. I'm bored of politics. It's all so monotonous, you know? It's like watching Game of Thrones and you see like brothers and sisters quarreling and you're like, okay, but wait, the White Walkers are coming? The people that are actually trying to end our freedoms and usher in a totalitarian state. And what bigger proof of this than...
Yeah, the White Walkers are Nazis, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, well, while the White Walkers are not expressly Nazis in Game of Thrones, I think there's some symbolism there. That's just my own thought. I think Candace entirely skipped over that kind of symbolism. I honestly forgot that Game of Thrones existed at all. I mean, I watched the first 5 seasons, and I think I tapped out at some point.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, at some, like, it was...
Like, the last things I remember are, like, Arya and the Hound.
Yeah.
Walking and just hitting obstacle after obstacle. Like their road trip movie was just nuts. Like their little adventure was nutty. Of course, I remember Gwendolyn Christie and her whole thing, but yeah, like I didn't give a.
I remember. Mm-hmm. I remember even Arya's like offshoot when she went to go see the No-Faced God.
Yeah, yeah, she went to go learn assassinry and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, learn how to basically tan somebody's face in under an hour, so that way she could wear it the next day.
Yeah, I remember all of that, it had its moments, but yeah, somewhere around season 5, I just kind of checked out. I never watched the last couple seasons. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't really care. Tyrion, of course, is great, and it had a lot of great characters and shit. But I think the beginning of the end for me was when the guy, the Mountain, killed Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
This hit a point.
Well, see, for me, it was like I was interested in the Arya stuff, and then she was basically carving her path of revenge back to her siblings at the wall. And it was great watching her walk into the keeps as a servant and serve the one king that was played by the guy that he was in Harry
Filch?
Potter. Yeah, the guy that played Filch.
Yeah, and she served him his sons. Yeah.
And,
like I said, it had its moments.
Yeah.
But I dropped out at some point.
I love the fact that she was the one to kill the White Walker.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, she completely cucked Jon Snow out of his fight with the White Walker King. And I'm like, but it's so good.
Yeah.
She just so smoothly fucking shanked the bitch.
Yeah.
You can't hate her for fucking doing it.
Yeah. But yeah, I know she was trying to divert from all of that. Candace, but all I could do was laugh about it for several minutes after hearing all the other shit the first time. I just thought I would share all that. Moving on, Candace can't get over the fact that she might have a visa ban in Australia.
What's happening right now in Australia, where there are actual calls to ban my visa. Candace Owens cannot travel to Australia because she is too dangerous. And so, I thought, how do they sell that to the Australian people? Well, how they sold it was that they are allowed to ban people for character issues. So if you don't have a good enough caliber of character, then the government can ban you. And so I said to myself, wow, that's listen, I'm a person that respects the law of the land wherever I travel. I've never been in trouble traveling overseas. I've never been in trouble here in America. Maybe I'm going to have to respect that if that is their legitimate process. And it's interesting because then I decided to just look up some people that were going to Australia this year, who were selling out, stadiums, and who were going to perform, and who were also touring just like Candace Owens. And surely these people must have the kind of character that Australian government and the media members love and that they adore, because I haven't heard any calls to ban them. So here is who's performing. In the event that I get banned, I want you to know who you are allowed to go listen to. And first up, by the way, is Busta Rhymes. I haven't heard his name in a
so I'm not going to play it, but Candace goes on a long and drawn-out tear of whataboutism on several rappers that are going to be performing in Australia through the rest of this year, some of them around the same time as her. She gets into their various convictions here in the States and abroad just to smear past events around because she really believes people can change.
Also, if you're going to
if they're joining the Republican Party anyway. Yeah.
Well, she wants to try and smear people the criminal record going to Australia. I know she's bad with her history, but does she not know the history of Australia?
Right. Yeah. Well, her whole run on all this whole thing is sickening. I'm not going to play it because it is her escaping a basic set of truths that we have covered before. Namely, she needed to file a work visa application months in advance.
Yeah.
And did not do so. And second, she has called on former occasions for America to invade Australia and has spoken outright lies about how COVID was handled there, in addition to all the very real lies she has spoken without thought on her current show. For this reason as well, groups in New Zealand have formed in opposition to her planned appearance there in Auckland.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad when you have the Australians and the Kiwis agreeing on something.
Yeah. They did the same thing with Lauren Southern, another alt-right lunatic, and Stefan Molyneux had a planned tour of Australia. They got kicked out of Australia, went to New Zealand, and they started talking shit about the natives. And New Zealand was like, yeah, not having it. So, here we go.
So I can deny it because I don't like his character, but me, Candace Owens, what did I do? Well, I upset the Zionist Federation. And they made a call for my visa to be banned on the basis that they don't like me. And so I was thinking that's got to be a tough sell to the public. Like, how are you going to explain to Australia? Like, we've got all of these people coming in, and their character's fine, but Candace Owens, who has not been arrested and does not have any pending charges against her, and who has not been in trouble overseas, and who has given, I don't know, something like 500 speeches throughout her entire career, has never caused a riot or anything, she can't come in. And that, my friends, is what the media is for. Like, the media is here to sell you the impossible, to tell you the virus is invisible and you've got no symptoms and you should stay home and let your mom die alone. Like that, the media has a tough job. They got to sell that to someone. And so, who stepped up to the plate? A commentator named Andrew Bolt, a journalist. And he's well loved, by the way. He's big in Australia. Andrew Bolt is essentially the Sean Hannity of Australia. He's on Sky News, and he's like, I have got to make the people hate Candace Owens, and I'm just going to call her some names and take some of her clips out of context so that they realize that what's happening is a good thing, It's a moral thing. Take a listen to what Andrew Bolt had to say about me.
Okay, so unfortunately, and probably by design, the audio on the Andrew Bolt stuff is really bad. Mm-hmm. Bad enough that I don't want to fuck with it here. Unfortunately as well, rather than engaging with anything she has said in the past few months, he went after her for the Hitler nationalist speech from 2018.
Jesus. That
we have talked about before, early on in this show. Now, while that was fucked up, sure, she has said much worse shit since. She may never live down her stupid takes on Hitler, and I hope it haunts her career, but people need to go after her for her more recent shit. I say this because as we get farther from 2018, it looks worse to go after her for something so long ago and not focus more on the now and the recent. Because not only does it show a lack of learning on her part, it shows a downward spiral and a lack of concern from her to learn and be better. This is a fine example of how to not cover someone like her and how not to report on them.
So that's what he came up with. Andrew Bolt sat around with the team of producers, and they were like, hey, so we had Candace booked to be on Sky News. They did. I was booked to be on there that exact same day. We canceled her because obviously if she came on, she would be able to defend herself, and people would realize that we are actually the kooks, so what should we cook up? And someone in there was like, poisonously ignorant. Oh yeah, that's good, let's run that. They actually have that there at the bottom. She's poisonously ignorant. And then Andrew Bolt reminds people, I'm a kook. Well, there you go. Let's take it to the bank. Forget all these rappers coming in that have got, drug charges and domestic assault and attempted murder charges that they maybe beat. Candace Owens is a kook and poisonously ignorant. And that, my friends, is the reason the Australian government wants my visa denied. What does that sound like to you? Well, I can tell you what, the Australian people responded and they were not with it. I love this. You got to go over to his Facebook page. It's exceptional. Just like actually look up on Facebook, Candace Owens, Andrew Bolt, every single comment trashing him. This person.
So I did that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of people trashing her and him. I threw in on the people that were trashing him and praising her a bit on my real name. Because I had to get some of the poison out, I guess.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is I threw words at the people trashing Andrew Bolt.
Okay.
Yeah. But I did it with my real name, which puts me among a group of maybe 500 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, like sometimes you gotta get it out. And if I can't make a Thomas Anderson account on Facebook, I'm going to take my chances where I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she goes on a rant for the next 5 minutes about the comment section on this video. And I'm not going to play it. It doesn't add anything to the overall, and we have other things to get through. Such as this next one, which I called Worst Food Truck Idea Ever.
All right, guys, now moving on very quickly, I want to cover this Trump IVF story because people are split, people are divided. Some people are saying he's gone too far, it's a bridge too far, I'm not voting for Donald Trump. Of course, we have to cover this as a news item because it's important. It's important to keep your pulse on what's happening in politics so you're not shocked by the results. And obviously, leading up to this, first we had Trump speaking about how he was going to protect reproductive rights. And pro-life people were very upset about that, and some people, Lila Rose being one of them, spoke out and said that he doesn't deserve the pro-life vote, and other people raised a legitimate concern, like, listen, okay, so what's your alternative? To have Kamala Harris get elected? And do you think she's going to be good for the pro-life movement when they're having abortions outside of the DNC, free abortions outside of the DNC happening in trucks?
Yeah, so this kind of did happen. It wasn't trucks, though. It was truck, single.
Yeah.
Also, the appointments were booked well in advance, and it wasn't full surgical abortions. They offered medication abortions, vasectomies, and free emergency contraception like Plan B pills.
You telling me I could have gotten my vasectomy outside the DNC?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was in Chicago, too. That's like 8 hours away.
I couldn't. Okay. I'm just picturing with what my weekend plans are to what considering I've had the head cold this past week.
Right.
Just going down to the DNC this past weekend. Look, man, I know I'm stopped up, but please stop it up.
Right. Yeah, so the truck operated for the first 2 days of the convention week. Anyway, Candace goes on, and it is 4.5 minutes of her doing another epic dodge for Trump this time, not Nick Fuentes.
Question. Well, moving on from that, you have Trump, who has now been interviewed by NBC News. I hate when he sits down with the left because I just think it's a waste of time. I don't think it's moving the dial any, but he's made that decision to sit down with them. And he has essentially said that if he is elected, he would protect access to in vitro fertilization. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
IVF has been an issue that has become political. A lot of people talking about it. What's the Trump administration going to do when it comes to IVF if you get elected?
Right. Well, as you know, I was always for IVF right from the beginning. As soon as we heard about it, it's fertilization and it's helping women and men and families, but it's helping women able to have a baby. Some have great difficulty, and a lot of them have been very happy with the results, as you know, and what we're doing. And we're doing this because we just think it's great. And we need great children, beautiful children in our country. We actually need them. And we are going to be, under the Trump administration, we are going to be paying for that treatment. So we are paying for that treatment.
All Americans who want it?
For all Americans that get it, all Americans that need it. So we're going to be paying for that treatment, or we're going to be mandating that the insurance company pay.
Okay, so that is a viewpoint that obviously has stirred some people up for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, listen, I think a lot of people are ignorant of what the IVF industry has become. And so you have two sides of this issue. I try to always speak about it with some compassion because I've met people, I know people who go through the IVF process, and they're going through it because they have struggled with infertility and genuinely have struggled with infertility and have refinanced their homes to pay for IVF treatments. And when they finally have a child, it's like it's a miracle. And so you're going to imagine that if you hit this issue hard one way and you say, well, this is wrong, they're going to be hurt by that. And because you're not realizing their struggle to start a family. Now, on the other side of that, which I think they don't recognize, is that for many people, IVF has become just like a shopping thing. You know, you find a surrogate, you get that woman pregnant, you have a woman, they're doing in vitro fertilization, and they're doing it for vain reasons, you know? I mean, a perfect example of this was when you had Chrissy Teigen, who was pregnant. She already had children, okay? She was pregnant, and at the same time, she was also using a surrogate and going through the IVF process with the surrogate. And you just go, this is just all of the excess in the world. And when you start to read articles from people who speak about what women go through, right, using IVF process, and then you start to realize that now there is this element of homosexuality to it, where a lot of people that are being drawn towards this are people who can't naturally have families, forget struggling with fertility, but can't naturally have families, and they just view this as an easy option that they can continually throw money at. It's a deep conversation to have. I don't think Trump is up to date on all of these arguments. I think that he probably is hearing from people. Tons of women are struggling. You know, we want to have the female vote. People are struggling with fertility. He's thinking of, fertility. Of course, you want to help them get fertility. And so he has a surface opinion on it and probably doesn't really comprehend why there is so much of this backlash. And I hope that the backlash is going to force him to learn more about this issue, learn more about the complications, learn more about what the baby even goes through. And it's a lot. It is a lot. And there's a time and a place to speak about all of those things. But I do want to say that I agree with the assessment that people have. It is down to a two-horse race. It is Kamala or it is Trump. Okay, so if you are going to abstain from voting over this issue, to abstain from voting is to cast a vote for Kamala Harris. And like I said, they're on the extreme side of that. And maybe the middle ground is, how do you save the most lives, right? And so I just encourage people to be realistic about the options that are before us. But I also want to say to people, allow others to lodge their complaints. Like, we should be holding our politicians' feet to the fire and letting them know when we're upset. That's not a wrong thing to do. But don't say, hey, go vote for Kamala, because to show him how upset you are. We don't want that conclusion as well. All right, guys, we will keep monitoring that issue. Before we get into your comments, I can't wait to hop into the chat and see what you guys are saying, because I'm all fired up today. I do just want to remind you guys about American Financing, because I love them. They really...
Go ahead.
Okay.
Because I've got a lot to unpack here, but you go ahead.
So my brain's having to slowly deconstruct Gish Gallop rant there I just heard.
Yeah.
But Ailey, she's saying that her president is too... He's unknowledgeable of the subject in which he is supporting.
Yeah, that he's too old to understand it. That's
so he's incompetent.
Yeah.
Secondly, that IVF is a homosexual thing, because it's the only way for a gay couple to have a kid. And then the fact that I have 3 fucking fingers up is my... Okay. And then she's saying it's okay to put a politician on blast. It's fine, because it teaches them to learn and to, the preservation of life. What the fuck do you think IVF is gonna do?
Yeah.
IVF helps. It helps couples that want to have a kid that can't have a kid.
You're kind of where we're gonna go here.
She wants people to have kids. She wants to follow that Catholic, as many babies as possible.
No, she wants the right people to have kids. Let me tell you what I've written, what I had to go through.
All right.
Okay. So, that was a lot to unpack. Candace obviously doesn't want celebrities that she has beef with, like Chrissy Teigen and her husband, John Legend, to have access to IVF, nor does she want gay or non-traditional couples to have access to it. But she only wants a certain kind of person to be breeding new children, as it were. The funny thing to me is that she thinks Trump is capable of seeing nuanced differences or giving half a shit. But the funny thing is, IVF treatments involve, for those who don't know, I'll try to make it simple. IVF treatments involve making embryos in a lab from sperm and eggs, and then inserting said embryos through whatever process is deemed best for the patients into the mother or a surrogate. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks to see results and determine if it's going to be tried again and how many times if unsuccessful. The Altreich problem with this is how they define life. If, as they say, life begins at conception, then having frozen embryos made and waiting, those are lives that have to be preserved if they aren't used. But what happens if the clinic loses power and the embryos are thusly killed? Or if they're unwanted and can't legally be destroyed for many good reasons?
Yeah.
Under that logic, they can't sell or donate the used embryos because they are seen as people.
Mm-hmm.
And if they outlaw, under the auspices of Project 2025, if they outlaw non-traditional families having kids, what is going to happen to all of those frozen humans?
Yeah.
So, the easiest thing to do is, for these people anyway, simply not allow IVF to exist.
Mm-hmm.
They really only want families to exist that are starting in their 20s to have as many kids as possible. They want those families to be hetero only. And with Trump trying to court as many voters as possible, he will say anything to make that happen, including talk positively about something that baffles his understanding when it comes to why his voters would be dead set against something that makes their families larger. For once, his confusion on a topic is understandable, because these people being against a medical practice that would swell their numbers is insane, since they know they probably can't have exclusive access to it.
Yeah.
Candace speaking against IVF, even as she has said in the recent past that friends her own age are getting it done while still trying to stick up for Trump over Harris, is quite a sight. Before we close out episode 57, Candace has a callback to our last episode and a couple of other comments besides.
What are you guys saying? First, before I get into your live comments, the Xavier Poussard interview blew up. That made me so happy.
It really did.
Because I think around the world, we're kind of starting to lock arms and realize we're dealing with the same thing, whether you're in Australia, whether you're in France, whether you're in America. We're dealing with a totalitarian media ecosystem which refuses to tell the truth even when the evidence is overwhelming. And what better example of that than Brigitte Macron and the overwhelming amount of evidence that was trudged up over the course of 3 years by this brave reporter. Well, Eamons writes, Candace, if you were wrong, they would have sued you and your entire neighborhood. I hear nothing from them, just crickets. Keep going, girlfriend. Yeah, all they do, like I said, is crazy. It's all the same stuff. It's boring. Actually,
yeah, Congress passed a law strengthening American free speech in 2010, and it's called the SPEECH Act, for securing the protection of our enduring and established Constitutional Heritage Act. Candace and others almost literally can't be sued for this kind of shit.
Come on.
Here comes a kitty. Always in here. Yeah, just sit down, cat. You're good. Squishy. Podcast cat. Okay, so as I was saying, Candace and others almost literally cannot be sued for this shit if they're Americans. While the Macrons could file a lawsuit, it would go nowhere.
Yeah.
That's why there are crickets. Also, because she isn't as influential as she would like to be. But again, this is Candace either not knowing or not caring about the laws that protect her and others like her. And it was passed in both the House and Senate unanimously in 2010.
Yeah.
That means both political parties and all the independents.
Agreed.
Yeah. Like, no one was against that shit.
Yeah.
You know? So
that's why they wanted it to be, free speech. So that way you wouldn't worry about getting sued into the fucking ground.
Yeah, like, the Macrons could file a suit if she goes to France.
Which, honestly, that'd be hilarious.
That'd be great. I would love to see her get off the plane and just the French police be like, Madame, please come with us. The gendarme would probably just be like, we have some things to ask you. Oh, God. So here we go.
we're bored. us worse than, we don't even hate you more than we are just bored by you. We hate the boredom that you guys inspire. Wander Gaudy writes, the pedophilia connection to the story is truly upsetting. Yes, a lot of that going around. The media seems to full-time defend pedophiles. I don't know why that is. I do not know why that is, but it should disturb you. Ashley writes, now when people say love is love, I hope they are not thinking this is that. A 40-year-old with a child is not love, it's abuse and it's manipulation. Yes, and that part of the story, not even the French media will touch, because it's that evidence is too concrete of their ages when they met. And so despite the fact that they presented that book at the beginning of their relationship to try to make that the official narrative, it took very quickly for people to do the maths and realize, okay, when was Emmanuel Macron a student here in this drama class? Okay, when was Brigitte allegedly teaching the drama class? Wait a second, the math isn't mathing unless we're girl mathing. We shouldn't be girl mathing, and yeah, this looks like a case of, I'm not gonna say it. Yes, I am. It looks like a case of pedophilia. All right.
Nope. As we say almost once a week here, which is every fucking episode, their relationship was entirely legal because the age of consent in France is 15 and has been for a long time. That's why no one in France will touch it, because it's not fucking illegal. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Also, girl mathing. Whenever she says that shit, it always pisses me off a little, because a lot of mathematicians are women, and they've done great work, including being the human computers that got us safely into space and back. Interesting that she is bored about a thing she won't shut up about.
Mm-hmm.
Because ratings are great when you're wrong, I guess. Speaking of wrong, she briefly says something about the USS Liberty due to a comment asking about it.
Oh. But also, if she wants to make a comment about, some bad math,
yeah,
she should say some construction worker math, because, yes, the engineers know what they're doing. Well, yes, the pipe fitters that are cutting the pipes know what they're cutting. But the people actually handling the raw materials and putting it all in place usually end up going, that looks kind of right. Yeah. Hey, Phil, what do you think? I think that pipe's a little too short. Let's cut it on scene here. All right. Oh, Phil, you cut that pipe a little too short.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah. The stories we get to hear when a relative is a contractor. Well, not a contractor. He's a union man that has to deal with unfucking job sites on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So yeah, here we go.
The USS Liberty. I am planning on discussing the USS Liberty. I know I promised you guys that a long time ago, but I wanted to actually get footage, and it was not an easy process to get access to Getty footage, and so we were kind of working on that, but that should be coming to you guys in the next couple of weeks.
It would be difficult to get that footage because no footage exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like they were planning on being attacked.
Yeah.
And it was 1967. Getty and many other sources, such as veterans groups for the survivors and families of the slain, do have photos of the aftermath, as well as aerial footage, and all of that is publicly available. If I had more time in my week, I could probably put together a short film about it using public tools. It's fucking nonsense. She has a fucking team. Anyway, she closes out this episode and we go into episode 58.
I really think the team's just kind of sitting back and going, man, I don't want to work for this bitch. How much more money do I need? All right.
Right. Here we go.
All right, guys, happy Wednesday. Boy, oh boy, you are in for a treat. Honestly, it's the Truman Show. I am convinced that everything in the world has become increasingly fake, predictable, and gay. It's just like one big Hollywood set. In case you haven't seen the Truman Show, by the way, you hear people saying that. It's like the Truman Show. Basically, it was a 1998 movie about a guy named Truman Burbank who was adopted after an unwanted pregnancy. He doesn't know that he's actually been adopted onto a Hollywood set. Literally everything in his life is fake. It's a reality TV program that is filmed and broadcast worldwide 24/7. And it's like just an amazing concept. Like imagine if literally every person playing a role in your life was just an actor and you were just being cast unwittingly in this long experiment. Well, I think we are all now Truman Burbank. It's just a huge political show. So what do I have for you today? Well, first and foremost, sadly, there's been a school shooting in Georgia, and the response from the media and the politicians has been predictable. Also, a document has apparently leaked from Travis Kelce's PR firm. Purportedly, they're saying it's not actually a real document, which would suggest that everything that you saw between him and Taylor Swift, yeah, fake, gay, and predictable. But up first, I know what you guys are really here for. Let's get ready to rumble because I have a sneak peek for you guys into my debate with Rabbi Schmuley, which is going to be airing on Piers Morgan tonight. And guess what? Schmuley was predictable. Honestly, maybe not. Started defending pedophilia or pedophiles in Israel or saying it wasn't real. Whatever. I'm going to tell you all about that. Welcome to The Truman Show.
Okay, so y'all heard it for yourselves finally. Candace using one of her favorite phrases that I have managed thus far to leave out of these shows. She says fake and gay a lot. Candace has also mentioned several times in past episodes that whoever people were in high school is who they are as adults, which I have only found to be true among people that refuse to learn and grow. I think that being an offensive and very wrong person on several levels might have been who she was. But I can tell you that I am not the person I was in high school. I've matured a lot since then. I mean, I still laugh at dick and fart jokes.
Yeah.
And Kevin Smith is always going to get money from me. But, yeah, I have matured a lot since then, regardless. I pay bills now. On time, no less. My credit's very good. Yeah. Anyway, after the opening music, licensed by Ye, she gets into her aired argument with Rabbi Schmuley, which happened on Piers Morgan. Candace and pro-Gaza genocide guy being on Piers Morgan is yet another human-sized kaiju battle, special director's cut, that I don't care for at all. Basically, Candace did actually keep her shit together, while Schmuley did act like a drama queen. Piers Morgan, as usual, was bleh. It's an hour long, and if anyone wants to... Come here, kitty. It's an hour long, and if anyone wants to actually see how you shouldn't cover Candace Owens, it's a fine example of it. They gave her a platform to argue against a genocide with a guy that can't hold his shit together who is pro-genocide, hosted by Piers Morgan. I'll be including the link in the show notes. Talking about this took up, including her ad read for the Hallow app, took up 14 minutes of the show.
Damn.
Yeah. This aired on the day that the argument would be airing later that evening. My main issue with this is that Schmuley is ill-prepared to actually call her out on her shit because he's coming at her about her opposition to the Gaza genocide and taking her quotes out of context. This is an absurd way to go about debunking a person like her. Anyway, moving on. She talks about a story involving Taylor Swift and her dude. It falls into the hole of being celebrity gossip and we're not fucking with it. I like Taylor Swift's music and I don't care for Candace trying to throw her under the bus with what could be complete bullshit or not. It doesn't matter. It's why she brought up the Truman Show movie. After several more minutes of dishing out T-Swift and her guy, we'll get the next clip, but... Have you seen the Truman Show? It was Jim Carrey.
I've seen, like, snippets of it on YouTube Shorts.
Jesus Christ.
Like,
it's a fine film.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey, when that movie came out, he had also done another one called Man on the Moon and done another one called The Majestic. Mm-hmm. Like 3 drama films, like in very short order, one after the other. And
yeah.
I don't think they were in that order, but anyway. Jim Carrey was trying to be seen as a serious actor, like a serious actor capable of range because he had done, a string of stupid comedies.
Yeah.
That, for the most part were okay. I mean, Ace Ventura doesn't really hold up in a lot of ways today, but, The Mask had its moments because it was based on a comic book in the first place.
Yeah.
It was based on a ridiculous-ass comic book, but...
Didn't care for Mask 2, though. That one...
That's the one with Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never watched it. Yeah, I realized if Jim Carrey wasn't going to be in the role, I wasn't going to fuck with it.
Yeah,
But, yeah, but the original Mask movie, had Jim Carrey, it had Cameron Diaz.
Yeah.
And, anyway, so...
It was a good movie.
Yeah, it had its moments. But, yeah, he had a string of, like I said, silly comedies, and he wanted to be seen as a serious actor, so he did these other movies, and honestly, I really liked The Truman Show, I really liked The Majestic, and I really liked Man on the Moon, which was a biopic about comedian Andy Kaufman. Jim Carrey played Andy Kaufman, which is hilarious on its own because he's easily a foot taller than that guy ever was.
Yeah.
But he did a pretty good job. So it was done well. But
Yeah.
anyway, let's get into the next one.
So the reason I'm bringing this up is not because following celebrities is important, but understanding that everything that you see in Hollywood is fake. You are watching a reality TV show that is being magnified for the entire world, and yet you have so many people who are following these individuals. They're able to create entire trends, entire brands, entire movements like feminism, Me Too, all if they find the right two people to cast. That's why I say that it's like the Truman Show. So this is an interesting story to watch because if it is revealed that this is in fact true, well, first off, it's going to deal a significant blow to Taylor Swift and her brand, but I also think that it will verify a lot of the things that we're saying about the evils of Hollywood, the monstrosity that Hollywood has become, and essentially just prove our point that the more that we abstain from these people, the more that we abstain from following the lives of these people or believing that anything that we're watching is real, the better it will be for our society. All right, guys.
Yeah, okay. So don't follow celebrity gossip like she just did.
And don't follow, the movies or shows or I guess that also includes, documentaries.
And Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Or The Truman Show. Yeah. Alrighty then. Moving on. Candace is a professional, not one to let an opportunity pass by without making a buck.
Really want to get into this manifesto. I want to talk about the Georgia high school shooting. I first am just going to thank another one of our sponsors. I think you guys probably saw me, by the way, on Instagram, seeing my face looking good. Like, my skin's been so good now that I'm not pregnant right now. And I was showing you guys how I use Nimi skincare because I would never tell you to use something that I don't actually use. And I use it every single day in the morning and at night. It's my favorite skincare brand. Nimi has come to be known as America's skincare company because they formulate and manufacture all of their products here in the USA while supporting pro-American causes and organizations. Nimi Skincare is true American luxury skincare at affordable prices. They have everything that you need to build an awesome daily skincare regimen to cleanse, brighten, and protect, and to help fight against the key signs of aging. Another reason I love them is because they are Christian-led. They stand firm in their values, faith, family, freedom. If you sign up right now at NimiSkincare.com for a subscription, you'll save 15% on your routine and save an additional 5% if you use code Candace at checkout. Plus, you'll receive a free gift on every third order. So if you're not sure where to start, take their skincare quiz to find the perfect routine for your skin. That's NimiSkincare.com, promo code Candace today. All right, so it is trending all over Twitter at the moment, and it is very sad because this school year just got started. You're going, okay, how could there already be a shooting when the school year just got started? And there is one, and we can just basically tell you.
I'm going to pause. What's up? Go ahead.
Let me get this straight. God created us, and we shouldn't manipulate the way that we look. But we can totally do that if a Christian makes a skincare company that makes bottles of shit that we can smear on us to help keep us look young and youthful rather than accepting what the Lord has given us, which is fucking aging.
Yeah. And she blamed her past bad skin, I guess, on being pregnant, which, I mean, yeah, okay, that tracks. Yeah, that tracks. That's fine. But yeah. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it. I'm glad you brought it up. I hadn't really thought about it. I figured I'd include it because I've heard that kind of ad read a lot. Now, here's the thing. In other ads she's done for this company, Nimi. Yeah. Now, in full disclosure, listeners, I usually go to these websites. I have not been to this one. But she's talked previously in the past ad reads about how this company is so great because they number all the bottles. So you don't have to worry about, do I do this one next or this one next? Apparently there is like a formula that you're supposed to put together on your skin. Mm-hmm. Literally no 1, 2, 3. Yeah. I mean, I get that that's normal for a certain segment of the population. I fortunately, no skincare is going to help what I got going on. So, it's, I've had to accept life as it is a long time ago. But
Yeah, the
Yeah.
only amount of skincare I do is for the dermatitis around my nose. That's
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And even then, I haven't had to do it in a long while.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, let's let this clip finish playing out here.
What is up to date? By the way, in the control room, if you guys just want to let me know if there's been anything new. I don't think they've yet released a name, and we're not going to float one or circulate one. But
Shooting in
details
Georgia.
are as follows. The 4 people have been verified killed in a shooting at Appalachian High School in Winder, Georgia. And that's according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Another 9 people have been taken to hospitals with injuries, the borough said. The shooter is believed to be a 14-year-old boy, but it is unknown whether or not he attended the school. A law enforcement said to CNN. The law enforcement officials in Georgia say that they received a phone call this morning warning that there would be shootings at 5 schools and that Appalachia would be the first. So a lot of questions there. If they got a warning, why didn't they immediately vacate all students everywhere? Maybe they thought that it was like just a prank phone call, but I think these are the sorts of pranks that we should be taking seriously, of course. The first victim in the shooting has been identified as a special education math teacher named David Phoenix, and his son said, "We are so thankful for all the text calls and messages about my dad. There was a shooting this morning and my dad was shot in the foot and in the hip, shattering his hip bone." His daughter Katie wrote in a Facebook update about her dad's condition. Quote, "He arrived to the hospital alert and awake. He just got out of surgery and is stable. We will update as we hear new information. We are so lucky, but please keep our family as well as AHS family in your prayers." So they're supposed to be giving us another update on the shooting soon. They're asking everybody to wait, so that they can collect all of the information. And I will be honest, just Winder is about an hour outside of Atlanta in Georgia. It has a population of about 18,300 people. And I'm going to be honest, when you hear these stories, it is like, I don't want to sound like I'm not compassionate, because of course there's nothing more terrifying than the idea of your children going, to school where you would hope that they would be safe, and then you get a phone call and you don't know what's going on. So truly, when we say, like, really think about those parents and what they're going through and the trauma of that, you can't feel anything but compassionate. But on the other side, it's like you just feel so angry about what you know is coming, right? Which is calls for guns to be banned, and they didn't even wait for them to announce who the shooter was or for any details, and you already had Karine Jean-Pierre hit the stand and say, "This is why we're calling for a ban on guns." And that, I think, is what people are so tired of. Like the very predictable left versus right. Nobody actually cares about what's happening to the students. And they don't actually even care to have a solution. They just want to see if they can quickly pass through their policies, right? Because
So, after that ad read, after mentioning the shooting, Candace says all of this shit. Now, I'm not anti-gun or anti-weapon to an extent. I don't think everyone should be armed to the teeth all the time, but I do think people should be allowed to carry personal weapons that help them feel safe if there are measures in place that allow them to do that in a legal framework that works for everyone. We have a long way to go to make that a reality. But anyway, that said, Karine Jean-Pierre, who is the White House press secretary, did not come out and call for a ban on guns. The strongest statement actually came from President Biden, who said that we should put a ban on assault weapons again, and high-capacity magazines, enact universal background checks for firearm purchases, and end immunity for gun manufacturers. That was Biden. Karine said enough is enough, and that more must be done to stop this violence. She didn't say anything specific like Candace is saying here, but here is some more ghoulish shit.
we ever cared about finding a real solution to any of these school shootings, we would be looking at Big Pharma. Right, so what they never want to talk about is Big Pharma, the drugs that these kids are on. They never want to speak about that because imagine if we realize that a lot of these kids are facing mental issues, truly because America and the West, but particularly America, has become a mental asylum. Like, we actually encourage mental illness here. We celebrate it. We celebrate people online talking about their various mental illnesses. We celebrate people online. TikTok, I have showed you videos of young girls getting their fallopian tubes removed because somebody convinced them that becoming a mother is something that they would never be able to do. My body, my choice. They're terrified about the prospect of being able to have children. Like, we have become, in and of itself, a mental asylum, and we are passing out drugs like Halloween candy, right? A kid comes in with a feeling, and I'm not kidding, I've talked about this before, a feeling.
Yeah, before we go further, I looked up if school shooters on psychiatric drugs overwhelmingly was a thing. Guess what? Based on the available research, there is no clear evidence that a majority of school shooters were on medication for mental illness prior to their attacks. So the assertion that most school shooters were prescribed psychotropic medications is not supported by empirical evidence. A review of publicly available information on school shooters from 2000 to 2017 found that most were not previously treated with psychotropic medications. Mental illness alone is not a strong predictor of gun violence or mass shootings. Less than 3 to 5% of violent crimes in the U.S. involve people with mental illness. Only about 4% of violent acts in the United States can be attributed to people diagnosed with mental illness. To put it simply, this is the kind of bullshit that people like Candace throw out after saying that shooting victims are getting thoughts and prayers. Candace likes to go a step further, of course, and say that prescribing mental health drugs is a cause of this kind of thing, with zero evidence to back it up, and here she is with a personal story.
I'm talking, I had a breakup with my high school boyfriend and was crying, and I was 19 years old, 18 years old, and they offered me Xanax. They wrote me a prescription for Xanax, and had it not been for this girl that was in my dorm, Zoe, who was like, why are you taking that? You don't need to take that. Who knows if I would have taken Xanax for the rest of my life. She was just like, throw this out. You're sad. That's a human emotion. Go experience that human emotion, right?
Yeah, okay. This is a gray area because while it is possible that she was prescribed Xanax, that is usually prescribed for panic attacks, panic disorders, and anxiety attacks due to the calming nature of the drug on the brain. It is not typically prescribed for depression. Candace might be making this up, relating someone else's story, or afraid to say that she was prescribed a drug for a condition that she said previously doesn't exist. See, Candace loves to say that people are being treated for panic attacks, anxiety, and exhaustion, or just faking it for sympathy.
Yeah.
If she was prescribed Xanax for experiencing a legitimate human emotion, that's fine, of course, but she can't own that based on her own history of shitting on legit medical and mental concerns that people have, which is messy. Next, she uses all of this to justify her basic-ass transphobic take mixed in with the school shooter.
We don't have this anymore. We have a bunch of pathetic parents who trust the doctors blindly, right? Who take their kids every time they have a feeling. I'm anxious. Oh, okay, let me put you on pills. I am excited. Okay, let's get you on pills. Your 3-year-old is not wanting to sit down and pay attention in class. Yeah, maybe because he's 3. Oh, no. He needs to be on pills. He has attention deficit hyper disorder, which I think is another fancy way of saying like he's hyper and he's a kid. We are just mass diagnosing everybody and becoming more extreme in those diagnoses, right? Now we're like, okay, I used to just be able to go through an awkward phase. I'm 13. It's weird to go through being 13 and you're a girl and you're wondering if you're gonna get boobs, if you're ever gonna, if you got a butt, if you're gonna get hips, and nobody likes to go through that phase, and kids are dressing weird and not feeling themselves. And now they're like, hey, ever think that you were born in the wrong body? We've got a pill for that too. And we've got surgeries and procedures for that too. We've got people marching in the streets demanding that you have a right to radically change your perfect body that isn't even done growing up, because I don't know, if you're not allowed to, if we treat you like you're a kid, not an adult, that should be allowed to make those decisions, and it's because we're a hateful society. Okay? So I just can't stand this song and dance where nothing is ever going to be solved. It's not going to be solved because on the left, all you have is this radical desire to take the guns from law-abiding citizens, as if this 14-year-old legally acquired a gun And if only there were more laws, he would have listened to them. I mean, it defies common sense, but they're going to try to push that, scare parents. Yeah, give the government your guns. That makes a lot of sense, especially following COVID. Yeah, I really trust the government after COVID. I really just can't see America veering into a totalitarian state when I had to sit down and listen to the government tell me that I was a sinner, a terrible backwards killer, because I wanted to go see my family on Thanksgiving. Yeah, let's really trust that government and that media to have all the guns. Like, I think that's a really good idea. Not.
Okay.
I thought she stopped like at that last pause. I was gonna say something and then she kept going. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But two things. One of the last lines she said in there.
Yeah.
The sinner radical killer one. My brain immediately just started to try and generate a rap song using those two lines out of her.
I mean, you get access to Donna.
Shit, yeah, I do.
You know?
I could just set that up and then listen to it afterwards.
Yeah.
But the other one about the trans at 13.
Yeah.
Okay. All of the trans friends that I have made here.
Yeah.
And any of the trans folks that I have talked to here.
Yeah.
Not a single fucking one of them were told at the age of 13, maybe you were born in the wrong body, honey.
Yeah.
They were all told, oh, everybody fucking feels weird.
Yeah.
Granted, some were a bit more abusedly told that than others.
Yeah.
But they didn't come around to it until they were like 17 or 18, you know, when they're actually hitting adulthood and they're like, no, I know what's wrong now.
Yeah. You know, like and that's the thing too, and as an adult they can make that kind of choice.
Yeah. And usually once they hit 16, they've already started going to a therapist because they're like, hey, I really don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
So they've already got the 2 to 3 years of therapy that you need under your belt before you start taking your estrogen or testosterone.
Yeah, and you know, and for a lot of people, like, that's legitimately a scary thing.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing to acknowledge within yourself because it's like, you know, it's just, I can't imagine what they would have to, you know, like, go through.
Yeah.
You know, or even especially if they don't have the means to even start the process.
Yeah.
You know, or like if there's a physical problem that they have that's going to keep them from doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that can take some time to work out. Like,
yeah,
I can't do this. You know, I can't do this thing that would help me feel like a complete person. So how do I go on?
Yeah.
You know, but again, this falls back on the easy logic of Candace saying that, you know, all therapists, all psychologists, all psychiatrists, they're all part of a gang to fuck you over.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, it's ridiculous. But yeah, transphobic takes aside, here are some facts. For one, only about 5% of children, 5, that is a single digit, of children in America are currently on medication for ADHD. 2, trans health care and mental care in children is taken seriously in most cases. I wouldn't doubt that there are parents that are terrible about it either way. But the ones I have personally known and the overall data shows that most parents that face this with their kids do so from an informed place. 3, the 14-year-old in this case was given that gun legally by his father. There is no age limit in Georgia for gifting a person a rifle or a shotgun.
Okay, I know morally it's wrong, but just the thought of going to a baby shower and gifting what is considered at that certain point a human being, just like, what? Randy, why did you bring a shotgun? Well, it's for that little fetus there. What do you mean, Randy? Well, the law says I can gift the fetus anything.
The fetus is a human.
Yeah.
Fetus is a person.
As soon as it can walk and talk, you should teach it how to use that thing.
Yeah. It's just a double-barreled shotgun. I didn't go crazy. It's not even an over-under. You know? Teach the kid how to point, shoot, and pull the trigger, damn it. Like Daddy and Mama did for you. Jesus, Becky. Now I gotta go wash my mouth out because you just done made me say the Lord's name in vain. I hope you're happy. I go light a candle for Mama, too. She'd be ashamed of you. Lord, you know, like, fucking Georgia. So, yeah. Minors, people under 18, cannot purchase rifles or shotguns, but they can be gifted them. Handguns have an age limit of 18. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. It's Alabama.
Georgia.
It's
Sorry.
Georgia. Not Alabama.
No.
Shit, Georgia.
I'm sure them's fighting words, but we don't live in the Southeast anymore, so y'all can, if you got offended by that little bit, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, so there are further laws in place, such as not giving a firearm to someone that intends to use it for a crime. But there is no law that currently prohibits what happened, namely that the father gave his son a rifle. I looked this up easily and cross-refed it within a couple of minutes. To be fair to Candace, I did not find it on Wikipedia.
Hey!
Yeah.
You know?
So maybe that's her issue.
Yeah.
Next up, Candace gets real gross, real fucking fast.
And so, yeah, I mean, pardon, but like, I think we are all just so tired of the same song and dance, the same political game where there's never going to be any results until we realize that the inmates are running the asylum. That's the reality. The inmates are running the asylum. The policies that these kids are even having forced through. I mean, don't even have to tell your mom if you're changing your gender in a classroom. Like, that's what politicians are trying to do. While at the same time they make statements like, oh, this shooting is another terrible example of why government must have all your guns. It just missed me entirely. Further on that same topic, by the way, we now have more of the manifesto from the elementary school shooter. Remember the Covenant school shooting that happened just down the street from me here? It was so horrific because you just go, what kind of a person, like what kind of a human being, how miserable and selfish and backward of a human being do you have to be to open fire on school children that are in elementary school? And that's what happened last year. And the media was more concerned with protecting the transgendered status of Audrey Hale, making sure people were using the right pronouns to discuss a mass murderer. That's where we're at right now in our society. Well, guess what? They have now released more excerpts from the manifesto, which they essentially locked down. And I will read to you some of the quotations of what Audrey Hale wrote, Audrey Elizabeth Hale, in the manifesto. Audrey Hale, she wrote, if God won't give...
Okay. So, this isn't a manifesto. It is a journal. Mm-hmm. Audrey Hale kept a 90-page journal of her descent into madness. And I have read some of it that was published by the local Fox affiliate there in Nashville. And they actually don't have a bad take on it. Candace reads from the leaked journal. And I'm not going to play her reading it. For one, the families of the victims fought for that journal to stay sealed. The Tennessee Star, the National Police Association, and the Tennessee Firearms Association called for the release of the writings. Never mind that the parents and families of the deceased did not want it released. A judge ruled in their favor, so someone from within the court system saw fit to break the seal of the court and push it out to the media. Audrey Hale was a deeply disturbed person that needed help, and it's impossible to say how this would have turned out if they had access to the very things Candace opposes: gender-affirming care, which would have included medication and psychologist visits, among other things. Instead, the wishes of the families were ignored by a firearm group, the police, and a media source. But Candace sees fit not to mention any of that, of course. Right after she reads from it just a bit, she follows with, and we'll get into the next clip after we talk about this for just a minute here. So I've included the link that'll be in the show notes for the local Fox17.com in Nashville for the Tennessee Star. Well, rather, about the Tennessee Star releasing the writings. Now, included in that link is a link to the leaked journal.
Okay.
I did not bother clicking on it because I think it's gross, and I feel like anybody that that was involved in leaking that out to the press should be just prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Because here's what happened. The police found the journal in Audrey Hale's room.
Yeah.
They went through it, as cops do, and it was given to the parents, to Hale's parents, to be dealt with as they saw fit because Hale died during the shooting.
Yeah.
So the parents, feeling naturally like they fucked up, they gave that journal to the families of the people that got killed.
Yeah.
Those families decided amongst themselves to seal it off.
Yeah.
To seal it away, and the judge sided with them as, again, the local fucking newspaper rag, and the National Police Association and the Tennessee Firearms Group all fought to get it released.
Despite the fact that all families involved were like, no.
Yeah. No, can you, and now the families, of course, are pissed.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was no reason for it.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that to get out. And the parts that Candace does read sound like Hale did not have access to the very care that would have made them, be on the path to wholeness. And yeah, apparently, it was a small private Christian school that Hale had gone to, but again, coming from a family with no health care and no money, they were unable to do what they needed to do, and they just went down a fucking spiral.
Yeah.
Which is like the opposite of your friends that have been through the process or that are going through the process that had help and support and,
Yeah. I mean, one of them has, had a deep spiral before, but even then it was non-violent.
Yeah.
But it could have very well turned violent.
Yeah, because that's just, and that's the thing, when people get on the path that they're supposed to be on, a lot of things work themselves out.
Yeah. The one couldn't figure out what was wrong with herself. Mm-hmm. Started taking testosterone. Now he feels really fucking happy for once in his life.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Which is always good. A nice person to boot, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, here's an ad.
Now, once upon a time, you used to be allowed to look at that and say, hey, this person is having mental issues, and this person needs to, therefore, deal with these mental issues. But you can't say that anymore. No, we have to tiptoe around how we talk about Audrey Hale. We have to be kind now to homicidal maniacs and murderers, so long as they hit the non-binary or trans box. Seriously, what the hell are we doing, America? What are we doing? All of it just really and honestly sickens me, and that's all that I want to say on that topic. I also want to take a brief second, you guys, to talk to you about Native Path Collagen. It's made with collagen.
Yep, acknowledge that Hale had problems, and then tell the ghost to get over it, and go right into an ad read. This is who she is, y'all. Time for live comments and chat, and we're gonna get some more anti-Semitic bullshit.
I was. She should have gone into Hallow. I'm sorry, but she should have gone into Hallow, not
right.
Given the circumstances of the school it was, she should have.
If I had to guess, maybe Hallow got their money out early.
I guess.
Yeah.
I know it's bad to try and make her show just a little better, but I'm like, my brain's sitting here going, she could have just.
I think
diverted into Hallow, maybe even like wrote it around into, this is what it's like when somebody loses their faith
Right.
and don't have the resources to reach out. And it's like, she could have gone there.
Yeah.
And I hate that my brain did.
Maybe her people went out ahead of it and said, hey, do you want us to wrap you into this? And Hallow might have been, do not put us in the same league. They might have been thinking, like, they might have been doing some 4D chess of their own, like, no, we don't want to be anywhere near that.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking, that's a no. So
That could be.
get ready for some more anti-Semitic bullshit and strap in.
Let me see some of your live comments. What do we have going on today in the chat? This person, I'm sure some of you guys are, it looks like they dropped the debate between me and Rabbi Schmuley early, so you can actually pivot over and go watch it. And yes, it is unbelievable. This person in the super chat said he's not of Judaic faith, he is a Frank. I called him out explicitly about his radical views. I called him out on his Jewish supremacy, and he was unable to answer or account for it. I called him out on who his mentor was, that it is a fact that he refers to a man known as Rabbi Schneerson as his mentor, and that Rabbi Schneerson was in fact a Jewish supremacist who believed that non-Jews had filthy souls, had satanic souls. And Rabbi Schmuley just didn't even want to talk about that. He just, you'll see, didn't even want to address it because it is factual.
Yeah, it's not factual, actually. So, Rabbi Schneerson, he was a mentor to Schmuley Boteach, but they parted ways in the 1990s, before Schneerson died. They remained friendly but respectfully apart due to choices Boteach made that contradicted Schneerson's group dogma at the time. Schneerson was a hell of a rabbi. He angered a lot of neo-Nazis in his time, and overall was a good force for Judaism, and he overall was not a Jewish supremacist. It is yet another telling feature of Candace's Nazi-friendly outlook. Rabbi Schneerson promoted a lot of interfaith work between people even outside of the Abrahamic religions. He was seen as more of a Mr. Rogers than a Messiah type, but he is constantly misquoted and put on a pike by neo-Nazis because he presented Judaism as a separate religion, but one that would function with a larger worldview with others. What Candace could have gone after to provoke Boteach instead of his estranged and long-deceased mentor would have been his record of using church funds to build one of his houses.
See, that's the kind of dirt that you use.
Yeah, I found that out in mere seconds. Yeah.
She's got a terrible team. I mean,
Yeah.
they really have got to just be sitting there going, yep, yeah.
I mean, the thing is, if I were evil and I wanted to live in Tennessee, I could work for half the salary that she pays all of these people combined
Yeah.
and outdo all of them every single week. All I would need is an angle, point me in a direction. All of my past employers have learned this. Just point me in a direction and I'll get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come in the middle. Don't come in here and tell me what to do. I mean, I guess it's fine that I'm a force for good now.
Yeah.
rather than having an employer come up to me and go, "Hey, we've got a lot of stakes that we have to move tonight or tomorrow. They're probably going to get tossed. Help us out." And I go, "How many do you need me to move?" 30, please. 50 if you can. You got it. Stay out of my fucking way. And I go table to table to table, preaching up the stakes, telling people what they can do with them. Off-menu shit. My biggest seller was when I would tell people, yeah, I mean, like, you can have the ribeye. Like, let's say the ribeye was the steak, right?
Yeah.
You can have the ribeye, and it's excellent. It's a huge 12-ounce cut. We cut them thick right here on site. They're very good. But if you want to do something better, there's something off menu that I can have the cooks do for you. Oh yeah, what's that? Black and blue. Oh no, no, it's not the one you think it is. You're probably thinking of like purple meat, where they just like slap it on the grill a couple times and send it out to you. That's not this. This house, when I say black and blue, they blacken the steak and they top blue cheese on it right before it comes off the grill, so it melts, and you get like a little crusted, melted blue cheese that sits on top of that blackened seasoning. You're going to cut into it, and every single bite is going to be perfect. Now, do you want us to do that for you? Well, yeah. Okay, cool, man. It's just a $5 upcharge. I mean, the steak's already $30, you know? And no one wants to be the cheap date.
Yeah.
No man wants to be the cheap date. No man wants to sit there and go, $5, that's a lot. It's a lot of blue cheese, trust me. You're going to like it. If you don't, we'll bring you out a fresh one. No questions asked. So I knew, even if they didn't like the black and blue ribeye, I was going to move another ribeye, and the restaurant could write off the one that came back. So anyway, the house wins.
On top of you're making an extra $5.
Yeah, making an extra $5 for the house, because there was no way the blue cheese cost us that much money.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, I did so many of those in one night that the cooks sent out a runner to tell me, "Hey, please stop doing that." I was like, "Why? What's up?" They're like, "They have 15 of those fucking steaks on the grill right now. There's no room for anything else. It's all your orders." I was like, "Okay, all right. What do they want me to move next?" Like, they're asking you to move the chicken. It's like, "Okay, all right, you got it. Can I do black and blue? Please don't. They're afraid we're going to run out of blue cheese. Please stop." I was like, "All right, you got it." But yeah. So I went back to the head cook, and I was like, "So what do you want me to top the chicken with? Because I got to sell people on a special.
Yeah.
If you want this shit to move." I don't know, man. We got a lot of mushroom gravy. Mushroom gravy on chicken work for you? Oh yeah, we could. Damn, that sounds good. If you think so, I hate mushrooms, but I'll move it. Trust me. I fucking went off and moved some mushroom chicken, and yeah, we sold the 30 steaks. I think I went like a few over, and my boss was like, "Why did you stop?" Like, I was looking at the numbers here in the office. I was like, "Well, talk to your cooks. They got a little pissy about it." He's like, "Oh, you're why they screamed." It's like, "Yeah, I'll bring them coffee tomorrow. You know, don't worry about it." But yeah, you know, like yeah, given the opportunity, like someone like me working for Candace would just make her shit so much better. But yeah. I am glad every day that she's not my boss, because I would take that paycheck, and I would force myself to look at my bank account every time she said something stupid.
Yeah.
And eventually those numbers just bleed together, and you're like, "The fuck am I doing?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like once you start to hit that bracket where you have like that good 4 to 5 zeros in there, you kind of just go, "You know what? Yeah, I'll do this week's set of things."
Yeah.
And then just like disappear.
Go to the Philippines and train up some people that will work hard for less money, and just be like, "Hey guys, so this crazy American's going to call you in like a week. All that shit I've been training you to do, just do it worse." It's just restart the problem, you know.
Restart the problem. Some other smart schmuck gets to take this over.
Oh God, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I talked about Boteach and his houses. So instead, she attacked the memory of a man who would have offered her a hug at her worst. Boteach was actually acting within the principles of Rabbi Schneerson by not engaging with her bullshit about Schneerson. She would know this if she had bothered to know anything about Schneerson beyond talking points. We end this episode of Candace's show and move on to episode 59.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are definitively trending everywhere. All across the world, people watched my debate with Rabbi Schmuley. In fact, it crossed 1 million views in the first 16 hours. Unbelievably impressive for any YouTube video, let alone a debate between me and a rabbi. And you know what's so great about this is I obviously did not speak about this on my podcast leading up to the debate, but I was just being, as I have been for the last 2 years, completely harassed by Rabbi Schmuley calling me every single name leading up to the debate. And of course,
She spent so many hours talking about that shit.
Yeah.
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 I paused the clip because I've listened to so much of this crap, I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed that the first time. She has spent so much time talking about how this man doesn't like her, hates her, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Move.
the media encourages his behavior. He's allowed to write for publications. No one ever comes down on him and tells him that he's unhinged. It's only me.
Yeah, they
Candace
do.
is completely falling apart. Rabbi Schmuley, I guess he's got it all together. And so you're going to love this. Let me show you guys how it started. Yep, this is an actual headline in the Jerusalem Post. It reads, Schmuley Boteach vows to destroy Candace Owens in upcoming Piers Morgan debate. Ooh, the hype. And here is how it's going, ladies and gents. The #1 trend on Twitter, Candace Owens triumphs over Rabbi Schmuley. Not that it was hard, but let me tell you something crazy, which I did not expect way from out of left field. RFK Jr., formerly the presidential hopeful, he has obviously gotten behind President Trump. That is a good thing. Well, apparently he was one of a very small group of people who watched the interview and thought, yeah, Candace is in the wrong here. Candace is in the wrong. I see, you guessed it, anti-Semitism. You're not going to believe what he actually tweeted about the back and forth, because he's got to take a stance, I guess, on behalf of his former advisor, Rabbi Schmuley. So, going to wait to hear what he had to say. Plus, later on in the show, I'm going to be diving into, I'm sure you're seeing this Lauren Chen, Tenant Media story, saying that she has been let go from the Blaze because she's somehow accepted money and there's Russian influence in our politics. I can't wait to tell you guys my opinion on that, because I am chronically disappointed in the right. It's why I am so bored with politics. And you guessed it, my opinion is that everything is indeed fake and gay. That's what we have coming up on Candace.
If you're bored with politics, why are you doing a political podcast, my gal?
Right. So that was a longer cold open than usual. RFK Jr., who we discussed last week, and who Candace has spoken highly of due to his massive disinformation campaign on vaccines, RFK Jr. turned on her.
Yep.
I was wrong previously when I said I thought he might have been a doctor at some point. I was wrong. He was a lawyer previously.
Oh.
He just hung out with terrible doctors like former Dr. Andrew Wakefield, who lost his medical license due to his massive misinformation campaign about vaccines. He's the source of vaccines cause autism bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah. And RFK Jr. is a good friend of his. Anyway, let's get into this.
All right, before we get into RFK Jr., I at first do want to show you my favorite moments from the back and forth of Rabbi Schmuley. I was going to show it to you yesterday, but I didn't want to scoop Piers. Obviously, it's his show, and I wanted to make sure that he got the viewership that he deserved for hosting us. And I was very grateful to Piers. We've had our moments in the past, but he at least allowed me to explain myself and to counter all the things that Rabbi Schmuley was saying, which was just increasing ad hominem attacks. That's all that really happens, by the way. If you at all critique Israel, you just face an onslaught of ad hominem attacks in the media, online. And like I say, there's a very tight-knit group of Zionist media members and their influencers who constantly and consistently and purposefully take you out of context, right? Which is so dishonest. It's not necessary to routinely lie and take people out of context, especially when you do that and deem yourself to be God's chosen people. Like you're lying full time while telling the public that you're God's chosen people. That doesn't sit right with me. But there's this one moment that is just so incredible. I know that you guys have seen it, but please allow me to play it and pay attention to my face because I had no idea, just so you know, backstory. I assumed that I was going to get ganged up on and called an anti-Semite. I never expected that Piers Morgan was going to actually have the tape from what I literally said many years ago on the topic of Adolf Hitler and nationalism, just after Schmuley had lied and tried to smear me as somebody who supported Adolf Hitler. And it really is one of the best moments, plausibly on YouTube, for all of this year. So let's take a look at Rabbi Schmuley getting caught red-handed trying to smear me. Take a listen.
Yeah, I'm actually not going to play that. So this is again a highlight of why people have got to stop using that fucking clip. We used it here before, once. But she has done 6 years. I think we used it twice, actually. She has done 6 years of reprehensible material since then that she can't possibly defend against facts. They do play the clip, but I'm not going to do that here because it doesn't help to make the case that we try to make here, which is that she is terrible for other things too. That clip is the start of the argument we have made here from way back when we started this show, which is that she has probably always been a terrible student of history, and her views on Hitler, Germany, Nazism, World War II, and all of that are shaped by not only bad actors in her life, but also her own choice to remain entirely ignorant of actual facts. Candace has been fighting that clip for years, and her audience doesn't care, and casual observers to her material can be lost seeing it because it was 6 years ago. She got worse, and it would be nice if the fucking media got better. Anyway, this is Candace defending it to her listeners and viewers. She learned nothing and got worse. For context, the rabbi actually did get the gist of it right, but he didn't want the clip played, and Piers Morgan played it for context. The rabbi brought it up to say that it was a silly thing to say, but no one from his particular group called her on it. When it played, they didn't step out and be like, oh yeah, you know, she's an anti-Semite and all this shit. They actually didn't go after her for it when it happened. It wasn't until Kanye saying shit in support of Hitler on InfoWars that they went after her because she wouldn't disavow him or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was when they actually went after her initially.
Yeah. So, anyway, this is immediately after she played them playing it, so fuck, this is meta shit.
I can't explain to you how much I was bursting at that moment. Like, you see, I look up from the computer and I realize that he actually has the clip, and I have had to endure this for years. So despite what Schmuley is saying there, where he goes, you know, when nobody said anything, are you kidding me? The Simon Wiesenthal Center issued a statement saying, condemning me for supporting Adolf Hitler. Of course, they intentionally stripped that clip out of its context. Still, you don't even hear what the audience member was asking. They were asking me and Charlie Kirk, as we were Trump supporters on stage, and that people who support Trump are nationalists, and is that okay to embrace that as a Trump supporter, this sort of MAGA agenda, make America great again, and say that you're a nationalist and you want to focus on America? And I said, yeah, if that was all any leader wanted to do, was focus on making their country great, and they said they were a nationalist, that would not be problematic. And yet they took that and they lied about that and they smeared me. And you get to see him do it live. I love reading your live chat right now. You guys are saying that Rabbi Schmuley looks like Satan. You're saying that he looks vile. He looks evil. And I'm not even trying to say this in a mean way, but that is objectively true. I say this all the time. The eyes are the window to the soul. When you do things like he does, when you engage in this sort of media spin and you try to ruin somebody's character, right? And you know you're lying. He knew he was lying. That's why he didn't want the clip played. No. It doesn't matter. It does matter. Because you are ruining people's lives. You are getting people fired from places on the basis of lives because you're truly possessed by evil. You believe that people are forced to accept your narratives. Basically, if you have a disagreement with you, I will crush you and I will ruin you, says the man who claims that he's one of God's chosen people. 2 years of harassment from him and his hag daughter, claiming to be God's chosen people. So God wants me to ruin you, to annihilate you, to harass you, to call the FBI and blame pizza on you because I'm chosen. Do you think the public is going to accept that? Do you think that when the public watches that and they hear him lie and they hear what I actually said and they hear where my heart was when I said it, there's not going to be a worldwide reaction to recognizing that what I have been saying all along is very true. There is a radical strand of Zionism in the media. It is radical, it is nasty, and these people need to start being called out. It is unfair. I am grateful that I have survived these attacks, that the people have trusted me more than ever. I'm grateful that people like Tucker survived these attacks when a couple of days ago they're telling us he's a Nazi apologist. Like Tucker Carlson is suddenly a Hitler apologist simply because he had a conversation with the historian they didn't want heard. But not everybody does survive it is the point. This is the reason why I talk about it. When they go, oh my God, you're so obsessed. Yes, you're right. Because there are so many people who have had their lives ruined because of these lies.
So if anyone in media is listening to this show, I'm going to say it again. Stop using that fucking clip already. It's not only that it's boring, she is worse now and she knows how to defend it to her audience and the casuals. As for the bit at the end, I would like to know what good people that spouted Nazi shit had their lives ruined by being openly terrible.
Oh, just quite a few.
Yeah. Also, Daryl Cooper is not a historian. He is a Hitler apologist. I thought it needed to be said again. Moving on, we're going to skip the rest of the argument with the rabbi, because she just went off on a lot of shit we have already covered, such as the lie that Israel is actively protecting a horde of American pedophiles. She spends almost 10 minutes defending this lie. We're skipping it and we're moving on to
RFK Jr. coming in hot. I don't know what to say, ladies and gents. I just didn't expect it. First and foremost, I want to be very clear. I like RFK Jr. because of the work that he did on vaccines. So he will always hold a place in my heart, because when I made the decision, or when I was realizing that everything that I had ever been told about vaccines was a lie after I got vaccine injured, and I went to the internet when I was pregnant for the first time, and I was like, I don't want to vaccinate our kids, to my husband, there was virtually nothing on the web. You couldn't find anything. And RFK Jr. really did put his reputation on the line. Him and Andrew Wakefield to create a wonderful organization called Children's Health Defense, which provided all of the information that I was looking for to sort of defeat the fear narrative, where
Yeah, so Candace had her first kid in 2021. There was plenty, and I mean plenty, of anti-vax material on the internet back then.
Yeah. As far back as 2015, I want to say, is where my brain at least remembers hearing it.
Yeah, and prior to that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of that was based on the work of Andrew Wakefield. Now, I noticed how she didn't call him a doctor. I think she's at least smart enough for that.
Yeah.
I think Alex Jones still does when he shows up on InfoWars. But anyway, for those who don't know, Wakefield produced his bullshit study on vaccines causing autism because he had an alternative vaccine company he was building at the time. He was fully planning to grift the British National Health System to sell his own brand of vaccines. Fortunately, of course, smart people saw through it, and they did what actual scientists and doctors do, and tried to recreate his results with his methods, peer review.
Yeah.
And time and again, they came up empty. Also, Wakefield's sample size was absurdly small. It wasn't even 1,000 people.
How many was it?
It was less than 100, I believe.
That's not enough for vaccine testing.
It really isn't. So Wakefield is also one of the biggest pushers of the idea that women need to take estrogen supplements indefinitely, in spite of that being demonstrably terrible.
Yeah.
We're talking grandmas were taking estrogen based on his words. Grandmas in their 80s and shit, yeah. A lot of people, a lot of women got cancers.
Yeah.
Various cancers based on his work. Yeah, between that and the vaccine bullshit, he was tossed out on his ass.
Yeah, I could understand why.
Yeah, well, he lost his medical license for a lot of very good reasons. And of course, Candace sees him as a hero.
Checks out.
Yeah. Fortunately, her and her husband have the money to deal with problems that may come up with their kids, and I hope her kids don't suffer because their parents are idiots. Anyway.
Are telling you, you don't know the information, we know it, you're dumb, you're a parent, and I felt empowered by his work. So I don't want to just completely denounce him or say this guy's all, it's not, he's not an all bad person. In fact, that it's really incredibly hard to stand up to the medical mafia, and he did it. He's done it consistently for years. So we know that he has this streak within him that is quite brave. It really is. So I want to say something very nice about RFK Jr., as I have many times on the show. Now, I was never going to vote for him because I didn't agree with some of his other takes. He is, whether you want to look at it or not, he is a liberal. And at some points, he is even left-leaning. But there were tons of people who really liked him. Definitely, I would say, moms in the conservative movement really took to him. My buddy Dave Smith really liked him, had him on the show. And he seemed to have a anti-war stance, so to speak, but not strangely, and I shouldn't even say strangely anymore, on the topic of Israel. It was kind of like his one area where he lacked consistency. So I'm just going to kind of remind you of that by showing you a couple of clips from his sit down with Dave Smith, who's a libertarian. He's consistent, does not like war at all, wants us to just not go to war for 6 months. Like, can any candidate just agree to not go to war for 6 months? And usually candidates can't do that. Let's take a listen to Dave Smith and RFK Jr. back when RFK Jr. was running.
Hey, look, Biden ain't a peacenik, but Biden brought our troops home from a war. And neither Biden nor Harris is talking about putting boots on the ground for anybody. Trump, however, is talking about making conditions that would possibly fire off a civil war, such as wanting to forcibly deport in home-to-home searches immigrants. That isn't just on Project 2025. That is on his Agenda 47, his platform on his fucking website.
Yeah, on top of... on Biden's list of things that he's done. Where's the cough drop? There one is.
Yeah, okay.
On a list of things that he's done, if memory serves, he also got... Didn't he get the U.S. Embassy removed from one of those... God, I swear,
I don't
feel
honestly
like
know.
I remember when troops were basically given the, hey, we're all going home, and everything was wrapping up. One of the embassies had gotten hit either before or after.
Yeah, I think that was when we were getting out of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
The Taliban was coming in hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and got all the troops out and even went, no, we're not going
pretty
to war.
much. I mean, some of them died.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got out what and who they could.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Trump is talking about possibly firing off a civil war by doing home searches for immigrants.
Yeah.
He's literally said we'd go door to door. Yeah. So yeah, by the millions. I mean, you heard some of that in the debate the other night.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like 11 million, 21 million. There may be more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, he confirmed it during the Harris debate, among other things, that would take the force of police and possibly military backup. Harris isn't saying anything close to that shit. Candace goes on to play a clip from Dave Smith's show, an interview with RFK Jr., and it's incomprehensible, not so much from his voice, but from his words. I'm not playing it as it feels like punching down. But Candace says...
We're seeing this, by the way, across the board, left and right, and I think the American people are starting to wake up to that there just seems to be this weird thing that nobody in politics will critique Israel at all, no matter what, and it's difficult for us to understand that. Are we a sovereign nation is the question that we are now openly asking, right? What is happening here? This shouldn't be that complicated. We talk about every other nation, we talk about every other nation's leaders, and nobody cares. You're allowed to do it. But there's this weird gray area. Now watch this segment. This is a part of the same conversation because Dave gets quite fired up about this. He's really just fired up. When are we going to be able to just have a country that focuses on America first for real? Not like America first unless, or America first sometimes, like actually like America first, can we mind our own business and be a little isolationist for a while? Take a listen.
Again, even if we focus outward, Harris walls aren't talking about making war on other countries. At most, they would continue to send arms to Ukraine to help them as well as money. That's not putting Americans at risk and is keeping Putin and others in their places. Because to me anyway, it seems clear that America has no problem supporting people that want to fight back against despots with direct support that isn't us occupying their land. Unfortunately, Biden has been supporting Israel in all of this crap as well, but Harris is pushing for a ceasefire, so we'll see. But still, no one is pushing for war. Candace just keeps saying that Harris Walsh is without proof.
So you hear all that compassion in Dave Smith's voice, and so obviously the only logical conclusion is that he, because he's Jewish, Dave Smith, is a self-hating Jew. This is like where when you get to the end and there is no argument, the media just starts calling people self-hating whatever. So like during BLM when I was going, this is not good for black people, obviously. Black people are getting arrested. Black people don't have a right to steal a flat screen TV because George Floyd died in Minnesota. Self-hating black person, right? Which means we have no arguments against any of the valid points she's bringing up. We have no arguments against the economic points that she's bringing up. We have no arguments against the fact that we are actually burning down inner city black communities. So she's a self-hating black person. And they did this to Dave Smith, right? So now Dave Smith is just a self-hating Jew. Whenever you hear that, know that the person that is saying that has no other arguments. They're a fraud, right? As soon as someone says self-hating, insert, just say, you are a fraud, okay? So Dave Smith gets that treatment. He's not the only one, by the way. Norm Finkelstein gets that treatment. He starts talking compassionately about Palestinians. Self-hating Jew, Holocaust survivor, by the way. His parents were Holocaust survivors, pardon.
So she interviewed Norm Finkelstein, who has long been an opponent of what has been going on in Gaza. He is an older man now, but he's been outspoken about it for decades. And only the most extreme assholes have called him self-hating. He gently put Candace in her place on her old show.
Really?
Yeah. It's basically 2 hours of him being like, no, what you don't understand is.
Mm-hmm.
He traveled to Gaza several times.
Yeah.
And he's been an outspoken candidate for those folks forever. It was really something, and we'll cover it sometime eventually. But anyway, I don't care much for the moniker of calling someone a self-hating anything. I don't think it's a fraudulent label, it just seems lazy. I don't think Candace is a self-hating black woman. I think she is an elitist that has built a brand on lies and charisma. She is a grifter, a bigot, an anti-Semite, a transphobe, and a fascist. She has claimed or earned those titles. But I wouldn't say that she is self-hating, and I don't think she hates the black community. I think she's a liar, but not self-hating. It just doesn't fit. Candace goes on to talk more about RFK Jr.
Think he was a baby, and he's a self-hating Jew. That's can be the only logical conclusion when you have nothing else left. That's what you throw at people, and so it's incredible. The whole world watched me debate Rabbi Schmuley. They watched him come completely undone. They watched him lie. They watched him manipulate, and shockingly, the one thing that he didn't actually rebut was my opening statement. When I talked about Jewish fanaticism, when I talked about the fact that there are radicals in the Jewish community, like there are radicals in every single community, he sort of left it alone when I brought up his mentor, Rabbi Schneerson, who some radicals believe was and is the Jewish Messiah.
No one says that.
He left it alone. So RFK Jr. after the fact took to Twitter to write this. This is just stunning, given the actual interview that we all just watched. Can you bring up his tweet? RFK Jr. wrote, during her interview on Piers Morgan, Candace Owen referred to what she termed radical Judaism and characterized the iconic Lubavitcher Rebbe Menachem Schneerson as someone who preached Jewish supremacism and hatred of all non-Jews. These words are a sickening, a manifestly inaccurate description of a revered holy man who was respected and beloved by people of all faiths. Rabbi Schneerson preached a message of unadulterated love, tolerance, respect, and universal justice for all of humanity. My father considered him a spiritual mentor and sought his advice on diverse issues of morality and ethics. He once visited the Rebbe at 2 o'clock in the morning. As Americans, we need to distance ourselves from the troubling rise in anti-Semitism. We need unity in our country, not divisiveness. That's what Rabbi Schneerson stood for. Yes.
So yeah, I don't like agreeing at all with a guy like RFK Jr., but his assessment there is pretty much what I was able to find on the Rabbi. Dude was like Bob Ross or Mr. Rogers. Naturally, Candace follows with,
we must distance ourselves from the concrete facts plus the name of the Jewish authors who I told you you could read to discover these concrete facts. In fact, the Jewish, Israeli, Hebrew speaking and reading authors were clearly just anti-Semitic. How dare Candace share their book and share their words? How dare Candace say, hey, they were able to actually interpret because they understood the rabbi when he was speaking Hebrew, not RFK Jr., who randomly decided to pick Rabbi Schmuley as an advisor to his campaign. Red flag, red flag, red flag. Now that you have watched Rabbi Schmuley, the dishonesty...
No. The rabbi is basically a friend that did try to help RFK Jr.'s campaign, and he attempted to get the Trump campaign to consider RFK Jr. as a running mate. But that fell through when one of RFK Jr.'s staff was caught up in a scandal. I didn't bother looking into that. It's immaterial. But anyway, he wasn't an advisor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's still saying Jew with the hard J.
Oh, yeah.
And
she can't not.
And also, what did the other rabbi ever do?
Oh, well, that's the thing is that...
Not Schmuley, but the...
No, yeah, Schneerson, yeah.
Schneerson.
Yeah. Schneerson was just a revered and respected Jew. And that's enough for neo-Nazis.
Fair enough.
Yeah. That's enough for them. So, moving on.
The deception, think about what it signals to you that RFK Jr. picked him as an advisor.
Didn't.
An advisor to what?
Exactly.
RFK Jr. is trying to sell to you that the problem in that back and forth was me. Quoting Jewish authors, Israeli, Jewish, Hebrew-speaking authors who interpreted the work. And when they interpreted the work, by the way, of Rabbi Schneerson, they said you weren't allowed to do that. And that was what was part of the problem.
No.
They were saying that there was radicalism that was breaking out in Israel.
Yep.
They were calling it the Jewish fundamentalist movement.
Yes.
Right? The Lubavitch in Brooklyn, what do we remember that from as of recent? Oh, I think I remember that we were told from the Jewish media that this was a radical fringe of people who were adherent to Rabbi Schneerson, who think that he is the Messiah and he is going to return.
No.
Dug a tunnel and were throwing chairs at police. Let's take a look at this video. Do you guys remember this? Remember this video? Well, I just want to be clear, just you watching this video of them coming out of the tunnels, digging the tunnels, yelling at police officers, just for watching it and observing that this is radical, this is like watching BLM destroy property, that makes you an anti-Semite.
No, Candace, try again. She is right in that there were tunnels discovered in Brooklyn leading from a local yeshiva and built by 13 men from the Chabad Lubavitch school. They contended that the synagogue was becoming overcrowded, and they worked in secret to basically build an unauthorized and unsanctioned addition to the school. When authorities discovered the tunnels, they attempted to fill them with concrete, which led to clashes between them and the authorities. The leadership at the school apparently didn't know about it, and the school was closed temporarily while the building was inspected because the tunnels could have posed a major risk. Ultimately, it was handled, they were allowed to resume classes, and the men were taken care of legally. Candace is about to misquote some actual Jewish historians.
That's literally the logic right now that he's trying to sell to the public, that being aware that Jewish fanaticism exists is what makes you anti-Semitic, because how dare you, my daddy has a photo with him. What? I mean, what kind of logic is that? Rebut the points that I presented to the public. You can't. So that's why he just calls it a name. We must stand against anti-Semitism. That's what we must do. Did he say anything about Catholicism? Because I'm pretty sure the Rabbi Schmuley was talking tons of crap about Catholics yesterday. Oh, no, nobody cares. Christians, doesn't matter. right? You can always insult Christians. You can always insult the Catholic faith. No one takes a stance. No one writes a brave tweet and goes, "Oh my, I can't believe she said that she knows what he actually preached." And I'm going to tell you more about that. I'm going to give you some direct quotations. And again, this is according to Israel Shahak. Okay, he wrote a book. Two Jewish historians wrote a book, and I want to tell you who Israel Shahak is. This guy that you're seeing on screen. He was a resident of the Warsaw Ghetto and a survivor of the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. He arrived in Palestine in 1945, lived there until his death in 2001. He was an outspoken critic of a state of Israel and a human rights activist. And so, yes, he co-wrote the book Jewish Fundamentalism. And I want to let you know what he actually wrote in that book. He wrote, quote, "There can no longer be any doubt that the most horrifying acts of oppression in the West Bank are motivated by Jewish religious fanaticism." Jewish fanaticism, as in when you see the videos of Jews in Israel spitting on Christians, we are told, well, those people are fanatics. Well, who are the fanatics and who are they following? Well, according to Israel Shahak and his co-author, they are following Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, and these are the quotes that they put in their book. So if you'd like to rebut what they put, if your Hebrew is so on par that you can rebut this, RFK Jr., please do. But here are the quotes, the translated quotes. "There are two contrary types of souls that exist. A non-Jewish soul comes from the three satanic spheres, while the Jewish soul stems from holiness. Every Jew, men and even women and children," I think we have the clip of this, if I'm actually saying it, so there's no rebuttal here, brings about the existence of the entire creation. They become masters over the world, and thus every single creation owes them recognition for this good. Being that through the Jew all beings were created, he therefore becomes the master over all of them. Do you agree with these statements that you're listening to right now? Do you agree with these statements which were published by a Jewish Holocaust survivor? Not Candace Owens? The next one is the Jew is in complete control, particularly over physical matters. The physicality of the world itself has to recognize the good that the Jew has accomplished. Through the Jews, they came into being, and their true existence is through their unity with the true being. Since God and the Jews are one, each Jew becomes a true being, and thus able to bring about all of creation. He, the Jew, therefore has control over all of creation. Not only that, but they owe him thanks and are indeed thankful. Now you can go look all of this up all by yourself. You can buy this book and you can see how this guy says that they intentionally have mistranslated things or they choose not to translate things. And he speaks about this fundamentalist movement, again, the same fundamentalist movement that we watched in Brooklyn last year called Out of Tunnels. And then after you read all of that, I want you to go tweet at RFK Jr. and explain to him why he believes that Christians have to just accept, because his dad took a photo with this guy, that we just have to accept this sort of supremacy.
Okay, so that was a lot. So Israel Shahak was a Holocaust survivor and a critic of how Israel was moving in the world during his lifetime. He was a professor of organic chemistry and a respected voice in the world of politics, being openly critical of how Israel was operating in Gaza. I'm fairly certain he would have been horrified and outraged about recent events. Anyway, his translations of the teachings of Rabbi Schneerson have been fought by people in various religious institutions in Israel and abroad. He has been accused of taking Schneerson and others out of context in order to serve a higher ideal of lessening the power of the Israeli government, who he saw as using these same concepts for a sort of manifest destiny movement to take over the West Bank. Given how history has gone, he wasn't wrong to think this way, but at the same time, the overall history of Schneerson seems to have been overwhelmingly good. But the danger of saying these things was always going to be that bad actors like Candace would take them out of context to suit their own stories. I think that we would all be better off if more direct translations were available of Schneerson's entire sermons. And of course, those exist in multiple volumes in English at Chabad.org. I'll be linking it in the show notes. There's a lot of good stuff there. Moving on, Candace finishes up on the topic by issuing a challenge to RFK Jr. to talk with her about it and school himself on all the bullshit she said. Then she does an ad read, but then we get to hear about Lauren Chen.
Okay, Russian collusion, da-da-da-da-da. Dun dun dun. It's always just the thing that we keep hearing about, and it's very stressful for me to watch these sorts of things take place on X because it just makes me lose faith in politics, and it reminds me that people in politics are terrible human beings, and you should probably not have relationships with any of them if you can avoid it. People can, so you're going to run for office? No, I'm running from office. Because there's just such bad people that are elected there. I don't know what happens, but everybody is just such a little snake. And there's no greater proof of this than, so here, let me give you quickly what happened. There's a company called Tenet Media, and they essentially just push videos that are from conservative-leaning people, and the DOJ has come out and is alleging that it was Russia that was funding that media company, which was linked to right-wing social media stars. That's the CNN headline. DOJ alleges that Russia funded the U.S. media company linked to right-wing social media stars. So they're describing it as a multi-million-dollar Russia-backed scheme to spread misinformation, okay, and sow political and cultural divisions ahead of the 2024 presidential election. And that it received millions of views. So that's it. They're trying to sow division because, like America, we're just all so unified that unless Russia spends money, like we're going to be like, no, we're like one big happy family. Like we love each other so much. So they got to spend money to make us hate each other, clearly. And of course, that word, misinformation. And they realized that Tenet Media, which wasn't actually in the story who owned it, but it's Lauren Chen. Lauren Chen, I've had her on my previous show many times, and her husband as well, Liam Donovan. They're saying those are the two people. And by the way, they're not being sued, okay, but they're saying that essentially they were the ones that hired the U.S. content creators who attract a large right-wing audience, and they've named who those people are. You've got influencer Benny Johnson, you're familiar with him. Dave Rubin, you're familiar with him. Tim Pool, you're familiar with him. So all of these people were getting paid by Tenet Media. How much money? Well, they're saying to the tune of $10 million. Their content.
Yeah. So more has come out about this since. But when the story broke, seeing Dave Rubin among the named made me laugh hard. Because Dave Rubin and a couple of other alt-right dirtbags are the ones that started Locals. Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and others were being paid upwards of $400,000 each per month just to do a Russia-positive story each week on their platforms. Giving it basically $100,000 an episode once a week for Russia-positive news. And they didn't have to do I'll get into it a little more. But yeah, given how all of these people have been linked to Candace, well, it makes sense to watch the space for updates. Anyway, I'll let her continue.
And they were just creating content, and they received $10 million that actually in the background came from Russia. So obviously Russia has hacked our election. Now, if you aren't a theatrical brat on Twitter, immediately you kind of go, but wait, these people, how do their opinions help Russia? Dave Rubin? He's like staunchly anti-Russia. Why would they be funneling money to Dave Rubin?
Yeah, actually, it's Ukraine negative. Yeah, so Rubin and Poole and others were paid not to be openly pro-Russia. They were paid to be anti-Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And more specifically to be against sending arms money and training to Ukraine. This is where other people that watch them have noticed that during the time of when the Tenet payoffs started to present, their anti-Ukraine content went up. On average, about once per week and often more often, making videos that were staunchly about how America couldn't afford to send money or weapons to Ukraine, or how this would lead to soldiers being sent to fight for Ukraine and so on. But let's not stop Candace trying to divert attention.
Who is staunchly anti-Russia, radically, I would say, pro-Zionist. That doesn't really make sense. Tim Pool, also pro-Israel, definitely not a supporter of Russia. That's weird. Okay, Benny Johnson, I don't ever recall Benny Johnson being a supporter of Russia. I mean, maybe he's made some comments about how the war in Ukraine needs to end, but you're telling me that of all of the American commentators to pick, this is the bunch that they wanted to use Lauren Chen to funnel money to? Where is your proof? How does this help Russia? What are we saying here? So of course, because the internet's got an internet, and they say, well, Lauren Chen is the ringleader. She's the one who pulled in these people, and they're all denying it. They're saying like, yeah, they offered us money to essentially just take the content that we were already creating and license it. So I do my show. They pay us so that they can just have content on their website. Licensing deals are very typical, right? We're just going to license the content. But I'm not speaking in favor of Russia or any of the Russian agenda. I'm just doing my show as I normally do. So is Lauren Chen saying things that are pro-Russia? Well, no, they're saying that Lauren Chen, and this is just such dishonest interpretation of events that's ever happened. They're like, well, Lauren Chen is encouraging people not to vote for Trump. There's not a single video of Lauren Chen telling people not to vote for Trump. There are various tweets of Lauren Chen, like a lot of other conservatives, critiquing Trump. And just to be clear, you are allowed to critique, and actually in a rational world, you should critique both candidates, but we don't live in a rational world. We live in a very tribal world. So if you say one critique about Trump, then I guess it means that you don't want Trump to get elected. And what was her critique? Well, her critique was that marijuana was bad, okay, and that Trump shouldn't be jumping on board with marijuana policy. Her critique was that Trump shouldn't be in lockstep with reproductive rights. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we covered that, or last week, where the entire pro-life community, by the way, none of these people sponsored by Russia, were up in arms about what Trump said, not only about IVF, but what he said about reproductive rights, that his administration would be the best for reproductive rights. That caused a bit of a stir across the pro-life community. So since Lauren Chen was also one of the people that critiqued Trump for those two things, that's all the proof we need. That she's obviously an agent of Russia, and that she was doing this, even though she's not being charged, that she was doing this at the behest, probably of Vladimir Putin. And conservatives have been on this. They've actually been on this, and it makes me sick. It makes me absolutely sick because, first and foremost, anybody that knows Lauren Chen knows that she's a really decent, kind person. I'm talking in a personal capacity. I have no idea what's going on with this case. But to not even honor her with 24 hours to respond, like, who are we? Who actually are we? We're just the left. Right? You allowed the Biden administration to set the narrative that there's Russia collusion, and you want us to think that $9 million is what swayed the election because she critiqued Trump a couple of times about policies that, just to be clear, are not the most conservative things that we've ever heard. So you can be upset and you can say, oh, well, we're a couple of weeks before an election, don't say anything bad about him. But to pretend that she's trying to not get him elected when she routinely mocks Kamala Harris, like 90% of the time, she's mocking Kamala Harris, mocking the fact that Kamala Harris is trying to switch up for black people, but we're looking for a reason to tie her to Russia. We are no better than the left. The thing about the left is at least they are tribal and they will defend their own. Like, at least like Hunter Biden can literally get caught smoking crack on a laptop and they're like, that's Russian disinformation. That's not him.
Okay, so first to the last thing that she said, I can't think of a single person that defended Hunter Biden or the things he did. Evidence of his many personal crimes was on his laptop because he stupidly recorded everything illegal he was into. No one disputes that. Anyway, what she is going on about is how quickly Lauren Chen was fired from neocon network The Blaze when this story broke. Candace defending the people involved isn't shocking, and I wouldn't be shocked if she was involved in some way. Next, Candace runs more cover and gets into yet another Jewish conspiracy bullshit thing.
You're like, wait, he's literally butt naked smoking crack. They're like, look at this letter from intelligence agencies, not his butt, not his crack. You gotta respect him for it, right? The right, oh man, you gotta love it. It's like Game of Thrones. They love to see somebody fall. They absolutely love to see somebody fall, even if it's somebody who has objectively never done anything wrong to them. They're not even gonna wait. They're like, guilty until proven innocent. Goodbye, Lauren Chen. That's the reaction, and I just can't stand it. I think it's crap. Let her say something. Let her speak out. Don't know what the situation is whatsoever, but I do know for a fact that if you are an individual who is using your platform to comment about $9 million being spent somehow through a Canadian girl and Russia on a bunch of influencers who don't like Russia, if that's your critique, that this $9 million made the difference and clearly she was trying to help Trump not get elected by paying people that are pro-Trump, whatever, and you've been completely quiet about the fact that it was just announced that AIPAC spent $100 million
that did happen
on our election this year, I want you to know it's because you're a coward. Did you guys know that there once was a president? Speaking of hypocrisy, there once was a president named JFK. Well, like in 1963, he had a little bit of a brush up with what was then known as the American Zionist Council. In June of that year, 1963, the American Council for Judaism issued a newsletter saying that they were being asked by the Justice Department to register as a foreign agent of the state of Israel.
That did happen.
And they had Senate hearings, 2 Senate hearings that year, to look into Israeli foreign agents. And JFK was demanding, his DOJ was demanding for the AZC registration. They were like, you are a foreign agent of Israel. And the department wrote to them in October 11th of 1963, the DOJ wrote a demand to the AZC, the American Zionist Congress, to respond within 72 hours regarding them registering as a foreign agent. And guess what happened? Well, he got shot. JFK got shot November 22nd, just a little over a month later, he got shot. And I guess that ended up working in their favor, because then LBJ became president. And LBJ was very pro-Zionist organization because his mother was Jewish, and his aunt, and this is, by the way, looking at a Jerusalem Post headline here, because I know I get in trouble for knowing these things. A friend indeed. New evidence reveals the incredible aid Lyndon Johnson lent the Jews. And from a direct quote from that article is, research into Johnson's personal history indicates that he inherited his concern for the Jewish people from his family. His aunt Jessie Johnson Hatcher, a major influence on LBJ, was a member of the Zionist Organization of America, according to Gonalach. Aunt Jessie had nurtured LBJ's commitment to befriending Jews for 50 years. As a young boy, Lyndon watched his politically active grandfather, Big Sam, and his father, Little Sam, seek clemency for Leo Frank, the Jewish victim of blood libel in Atlanta. Fast forward today, AIPAC has just surpassed $100 million of spending on the 2024 election, but please let conservatives tell you how they really feel about the idea of foreign influence in our election, because everyone is such an honest, brave, courageous individual, and they're really going after Lauren Chen because this matters. This really matters to them. They just want to make sure there's no influence, no foreign influence in our elections. It makes...
LBJ wasn't Jewish. This is a lot to unpack, but first, JFK did have issues with the Zionist group she mentioned, and there were inquiries into them being an influential foreign organization in American politics. Fast forward to LBJ. He was not, I repeat, not Jewish. Johnson's mother wasn't Jewish. His aunt wasn't Jewish. His family were allies to the Jews. Allies. They were all, those named anyway, were all Southern Baptists. Johnson's dad and grandpa did seek clemency for Leo Frank at the behest of the ADL, because, as we've covered before, that case was bullshit. Johnson's mother and aunt were supporters of Zionist causes, but they weren't Jewish. Candace gets into viewer comments next, and it's just people patting her on the back for her argument against Schmuley. So we're skipping it and going into the last episode of the week, episode 60.
All right, guys, happy Friday. Today I have updates galore. Okay, first and foremost, I'm sure you've heard of this, but the father of the Georgia shooting, the suspect, is being charged. Talk about that, see whether or not you think that's fair in terms of legal processes. Also, France has released Pavel Durov, and he's made his first statement to the public. We're going to go over that. Romania has released the Tate brothers to house arrest, despite the fact that the prosecutors basically pleaded to have them both jailed, and then they appealed when the courts said no, and they lost that appeal, so they are back home as well. And then Elon Musk, people are speaking about him because he rather conspicuously deleted a tweet that promoted Tucker Carlson's podcast episode with a historian about World War II. And he seems to have done a little bit of a 180, perhaps, on his opinion. So what gives? We're going to talk about all of that today on Candace.
Okay, so that's pretty much speaks for itself, but we're going to skip most of this episode. Not only are we at our usual clip amount, but most of the episode is skippable. Anyway, Candace starts by throwing out a nonsense argument for firearms.
All All right, I know that we are no longer allowed to think in our society. Now we have people that are apparently elected to do the thinking for us. We have the experts. You're supposed to trust them. But I remember when I was in a senior year of high school and we had this class. It was a philosophy class called Senior Sem, and he used to come in every day with a debacle, and he would ask us to just work through the philosophical question. And so today I'm going to give you guys a philosophical question regarding liability, and this comes up all the time, especially after a school shooting, but in many other circumstances that we're going to go over today. But in terms of any sort of an accident or anything that's done on purpose, do we blame the manufacturers? Which is to say, if a school shooting happens, do we blame the gun? When somebody shoots another human being, do we blame the gun manufacturer? And some people are probably thinking, yes, we should, because they're creating something that could kill someone. And if your answer is yes, and of course you know that the slope then gets incredibly slippery, it would mean that you'd have to blame the manufacturer of alcohol when someone drinks and drives. It would also mean that you'd have to blame the car dealer if somebody got into a car and decided to run over 10 people. You go, okay, well, you created something that could kill someone. And so it's really interesting always to me when you look into the news and you see how the government deals with that question. And of course,
Yeah, okay, no.
Okay, that first bit about the gun thing,
Yeah.
blaming the manufacturer, just reminded me of a scene from, I think it's American Dad,
Yeah.
where his daughter's like hassling him about owning guns.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, all right, fine, gun to kill. He reaches into his coat, he pulls out his gun, and he sets it down on the table and goes, all right, gun, go ahead, kill someone. Come on, don't be shy. Guns don't kill people, Haley. I kill people. Guns help protect people from smaller guns.
Okay. Well, I think Candace isn't used to having anyone around her that can or will push back on her bullshit anymore. Because this is a garbage take. Before I start, I am a gun owner. I also own other weapons, and I'm well trained in all sorts of combat. The difference between guns, booze, cars, etc. is that guns are built with one purpose in mind. Like the difference of a sword versus a kitchen knife. One can be used for killing but has multiple other uses, and one is intended for combat or protection. A gun is such an item, but with less general purpose use than most other tools. Booze has more applications than just getting hammered. Cars are also multifunction devices, but a gun is not. In the case of this gun, wielded by a child, the gun laws in Georgia are partly to blame. There was nothing stopping this father from buying the gun and gifting it to his son. That said, the boy had demonstrated mental distress over his parents fighting in a bitter marriage and a bad divorce and probably shouldn't have had access to a firearm. I understand the view that gun manufacturers should be able to be sued, but honestly, the laws in Georgia are mostly to blame here. I have no love for firearms, but they have a place in helping marginalized people and communities stay safe, and I certainly don't want to give up my weapons. I do think that if a gun has a manufacturer defect that leads to damage on the user or standby people, when and if the gun is being used responsibly, like at a gun range or hunting or in competition, then the manufacturer should be able to be sued. Candace later in the episode actually sides with the state of Georgia in also locking up the father in this case because he demonstrated irresponsible behavior in giving his son an AR-15 due to how the boy's mental state had been. But the slippery slope argument as she presents it is bullshit. Booze companies, bars, liquor stores are able to be sued based on user behavior, and if a car equipped with collision avoidance devices doesn't stop when it should, then the manufacturer can be sued. Her take is nonsense, outside of the fact that the father deserved to be arrested for what the kid did. Anyway, Candace didn't bother to look up Georgia gun laws.
His son to possess a weapon. Apparently, Dad is the one that brought Colt the semi-automatic weapon as a Christmas present. And the dad's saying, well, that was just for hunting. 14-year-olds, just so you know, I know we got the crowd that's like, we just need stricter laws. By all measures and all laws, a 14-year-old is not supposed to possess a weapon. So his father buying him this, of course, is already breaking the law. His father allowing him to take that gun to school or not knowing that he took that gun to school is already breaking the law.
No, it isn't. In Georgia, there is currently no age limit with which a parent can gift a minor a shotgun or rifle. Handguns are 18. The kid taking it to school was breaking the law, and the current theory is that he had it broken down, which is a feature of the AR-15 platform. Candace not acknowledging that the father giving his kid the gun was not illegal is enough for this section, honestly. She goes on to talk about more about how the kid shouldn't have had a gun due to his mental state, so I can agree with that. Moving on, Candace catches us up on Pavel Durov. Kinda.
Because I think we all recognize that our government is a gang, and we saw this, of course, last week or the week before. I think it was last week when Pavel Durov, the billionaire founder of Telegram, was arrested in France out of nowhere. We were told he's guilty of drug trafficking and sex trafficking and child sex trafficking, all of these things, because he created an app, and some people who he's never met and never seen have abused that app. It's incredible if the government would take that perspective whatsoever. And so a great update is that Pavel Durov is out after being held for 4 days. He has now released a statement about what he has gone through and what his perspective is. Here is his statement. I'll read it to you. Thank you, everyone, for your support and love. Last month, I got interviewed by police for 4 days after arriving in Paris. I was told I may be personally responsible for other people's illegal use of Telegram because the French authorities didn't receive responses from Telegram. This was surprising for several reasons. One, Telegram has an official representative in the EU that accepts and replies to EU requests. Two, the French authorities had numerous ways to reach me to request assistance. As a French citizen, I was a frequent guest at the French consulate in Dubai. A while ago, when asked, I personally helped them establish a hotline with Telegram to deal with the threat of terrorism in France. Three, if a country is unhappy with an internet service, the established practice is to start a legal action against the service itself. Oh yeah, why didn't they just sue Telegram? Instead, they went after the founder. He is correct. That is so strange. There is no precedent for this. But they did this because we know that what they ultimately are not after is not trying to stop drug trafficking. They're not trying to stop human trafficking. Our government agencies are the #1 drug traffickers. What do you think the FDA is doing? What do you think all these pharmaceutical companies are in bed with the FDA doing? Okay, they want to stop human trafficking. Oh, the people that are in charge of the military-industrial complex who won't answer any questions about what's happened to all of these Ukrainian children that have conspicuously gone missing.
Ukraine is in a war with one of the top military powers on Earth. Of course, children can be missing. But also, Pavel Durov actually did say all that stuff. So she gets a rare, good job at basic reporting, Candace, from me.
Yeah.
Then she goes on.
Yeah, of course.
Want us to believe that they're really cracking down on Pavel Durov because they care about drugs and human trafficking? No. What they do care about is freedom, or rather the suppression of freedom. Pavel Durov goes on to write, establishing the right balance between privacy and security is not easy. You have to reconcile privacy laws with law enforcement requirements and local laws with EU laws. You have to take into account technological limitations. As a platform, you want your processes to be consistent globally while also ensuring they are not abused in countries with weak rule of law. Sometimes we can't agree with the country's regulator on the right balance between privacy and security. In those cases, we are ready to leave that country. We've done it many times. When Russia demanded that we hand over encryption keys to enable surveillance, we refused, and Telegram got banned in Russia. When Iran demanded that we block channels of peaceful protesters, we refused, and Telegram got banned in Iran. We are prepared to leave markets that aren't compatible with our principles because we are not doing this for money. We are driven by the intention to bring good and defend the basic rights of people, particularly in places where these rights are violated. Well, I love that he says that because the reality, and if you're paying attention to what's happening in the West, you're starting to feel the squeeze. The reality is that our privacy and our rights have been violated very slowly over time. We haven't even realized it. We don't even have a right to think anymore, as I said. Instantly, the media comes in, they call you stupid, fringe, conspiracy theorists. If you don't trust the media to tell you exactly what to think, you're way too far out for them. And they will try to ruin your lives sometimes, effectively try to ruin your lives. And so when you have a person like this who is truly fighting for freedom, fighting for us to be able to receive information that we know the mainstream media is never going to report on. That's why they want to go after him, because he was able to show people live. I mean, really, Telegram blew up throughout the Russian-Ukrainian war. That conflict, because people were showing what was happening to Ukrainian soldiers, as we were being told that everything that was happening there was moral We were going, wait a second, what is this? Why does this look like something the Bolsheviks would be doing? Christian men being pulled out of their homes with crosses around their necks against their will, being thrown onto the front lines. And then,
Yeah, so I was kind of with her the first time I heard the statement when she was reading the Pavel Durov stuff. Then she got into the bullshit. Ukraine allows for religious opposition to keep a man or woman from serving, as some of the denominations there do not allow for weapons or violence from adherents on anyone. Even going beyond that, there is no evidence that Christian men are being dragged from their homes to fight in the war in Ukraine. On the Ukrainian side, Russia, however, requires military service of all men, and there are verified videos of Russian Christians being dragged out of their homes to fight in the war.
Yeah.
At least one was jailed and allowed to do alternative civil service instead of going to the war. If anyone is forcing Christians to fight other Christians, it is Russia. Then Candace does a unique ad read for Ground News.
what you think about it, but first I want to remind you about Ground News, which is something that we all know well, that there is extreme bias, as we just said, in the mainstream media. I started this show to have honest conversations and fight for freedom of speech, and that's not easy in today's media environment, but there's a news platform that helps me see different perspectives on any news story and understand what's really happening in the world, and that's Ground News. It's an app and a website that prioritizes free speech and transparency without controlling the narrative. They pull related articles from around the world in one place, showing you every side of the story and highlighting each source's political bias and corporate influence. Ground News is an incredible tool that cuts through the noise and gives you a clear view of what's really going on. They've even created a blind spot feed that exposes what the other side of the political spectrum isn't covering. It's all about bringing back transparency and promoting honest civil discourse. So go to groundnews.com/Candace to get 40% off the Ground News Advantage plan, which is the plan that I have. It will give you access to all of their features. Ground News is doing important work, and I hope that you'll check them out. That's ground, GROUND, news.com/Candace. Oh.
So I went to Ground News via the address she mentioned. It redirected me to their normal landing page, which offered 40% off their high-end service.
Okay.
It's $60 or so per year with the 40% off. It's a newer service, but I'm not signing up, even though one of the tier levels is only $10 a year.
Yeah.
If Candace is getting her news, and we've heard her takes on stuff, I trust the service less than they might realize.
Also, from what that ad read sounded like is, we completely believe in media transparency for a fee.
Yeah.
That's what that sounded like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Candace goes on to talk more about Tucker and the idiot that is not a historian, Daryl Cooper. I skipped through it because Elon Musk said that people should watch it, and then he deleted the tweet.
Damn.
Because people rightfully called it out as a bad take.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Candace goes on to say what Elon said. Community notes for the win on the whole topic. Then
have been lying, and then you have Elon Musk retweeting it and saying community notes for the win. Pull that back up one more time, because there's something very interesting there. Where is this coming from? So they go, we can now tell you where the truth is. The truth, if you'd like further context, which this historian is not providing, is on Wikipedia. That really tickled me. Like, that is not a community note to win. That is definitively not a community note to win. So I just wanted to let you guys know, in case you think Wikipedia, which we all understood was like not the standard, like if you wanted a basic understanding of something, like if you wanted to know like where is New York City, fine, go to Wikipedia. Yeah, New York City is in New York, sort of a question. When you're talking about trying to learn the truth about a narrative or what's happened, Wikipedia has always been bought and paid for. What I mean by that is that there are editors. It's quite literally, Alex Jones was right again, an information war. So I'm going to show you this old clip, an Israeli national news segment that was done with the 13th Prime Minister. This is being led by the 13th Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, discussing how they're employing teams to mass edit Wikipedia to suit Zionist narratives. I'm just pulling this clip. Do not at me, take a listen.
yeah, we shouldn't have to say it, But Candace uses Wikipedia articles often on her show to try to prove her own bad takes as she skips over or leaves out relevant portions entirely. I am not going to play the old clip she has because, like most things about Candace and Jews, it is intended to be misleading. Wikipedia has learned how to make tools that detect bias and be better as a result of things such as the Israeli government and other world governments trying to make themselves look better while they do bad things. Her calling Wikipedia a bad source is honestly one of the most hypocritical and bullshit things she has done. Moving on, she goes on to try to support her own bad argument, and then she goes on to talk about how great Tucker Carlson is, and it's all ultimately self-serving. Mostly because at an event in Phoenix, Arizona, Tucker brought out Russell Brand, and he led a prayer on stage.
Okay.
I'm not playing it.
Yeah.
I listened to it once, and it's as sickly performative as you can well imagine.
Are we talking like Southern Baptist?
Got on his knees on stage, and like he wasn't, he was Russell Brand, but he was very. It's very wordy. It's very like even I'm sure even the Christians in the crowd were like, British guy, shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to get to the sizzler. Move this along. Like. See, I'm not playing it. I listened to it once, and it's a sickly performance. Candace goes on to discuss the developments in the Tate brothers trial, and it takes several minutes while she runs cover for them still. The gist is that they have been allowed to speak with some of the alleged victims with the court being involved. Nothing new, really. Candace gets into more Lauren Chen stuff. Candace goes to bat for Lauren Chen, saying most of the same stuff that she did the day before. Nothing new, and we're moving past it. After the viewer comments, she closes out the show. Before we go into our ending segment for this week, I wanted to mention that Candace has received a 1-week suspension from doing her show on YouTube. She claims it was an attack from people friendly with Rabbi Boteach, but she hasn't yet provided the proof of that, like she did with the Tristan Tate video being struck down. Fortunately for me, she is still uploading her current content from Rumble now to her podcast channel, so we don't have to worry about stopping for a week or whatever. I watched the first Rumble video just in case it didn't get uploaded to the podcast, and man, her show sucks to watch.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Her people constantly switch cameras, but she stares straight ahead at what I'll assume is camera 1.
Yeah.
It's disorienting.
Do they at least, do it smoothly,
No. It's for a few seconds you're on camera 1, and then you're on camera 2 or 3, but she's staring straight ahead talking into camera 1.
It's not even like she's moving.
It's not even like the news where it's where it's like they'll follow the motion of the light, but yeah, no, it's not like that at all.
God.
Yeah, so her people constantly switch cameras, but she stares straight ahead. It's disorienting. Anyway, we'll catch up on that next week. For now, let's drink something dumb. What did you decide on tonight?
I didn't know I need to decide on that. Let's go with the weirdly blue one.
Okay, sure. The State Fair Soda Rocket Bomb Pop by our friends that don't know we've been promoting their sodas forever at Blue Sun. Ooh, twisted right off. Ooh, it smells like it belongs. All right, give myself. All right. Ooh.
That is.
Smells like a sugary ass bomb pop, like a rocket bomb pop. That's what it is.
See, I haven't had. Okay, see that makes sense as to why it said rocket bomb pop.
Yeah.
I've been sitting here.
It's actually the blue color of them.
I've been sitting here all evening trying to figure out what the fuck is the flavor of blue rocket bomb pop. What
it's
the
that
fuck
blue,
is that?
It's that blue raspberry flavor that we as a culture decided just exists.
Yeah.
Even though it's not nature, we're like, that's a blue raspberry. Sure it is.
Yeah.
Let's give it a shot. I gotta say, this is better than the bubbly seltzer that was named after this.
Yep.
This is definitely better.
Yeah, this is actually drinkable.
Yeah.
This is pretty good.
It's like Kool-Aid soda, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think when it comes down to blue raspberries, right? It's probably much like have you ever like listened to somebody either A, ordering a Powerade, or B, shopping for Powerade?
When I was the Jimmy John's manager, we had Powerade as an option.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, when I worked at Wendy's, we had all the Powerade as an option.
Oh God, yeah.
So
nobody should have more than one Powerade choice on a soda bar.
You know what sucks? The only fucking color we didn't carry, I believe, was like purple. Yeah, it was purple. We didn't carry purple Powerade, and this gym bro came through the goddamn drive-through, and I was working the window.
Yeah.
And he comes up to the thing, and he makes his order, and it's like just this, gym bro sounding fucking thing, and I'm just like, all right.
I need lots of protein.
Yeah.
No starches, no, just give me lots of protein, but no starches, and no veggies. I've totally got supplements. If you just wrap the burger, no cheese.
Yeah.
I know them types.
Yeah. Yep. He pulled. Well, we're sitting there and we're like, okay, this is a crazy ass order. Either this dude's A, stoned, or B, he's a beefcake. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then, he's like,
beefcake.
I'm like, hey, what do you want as your drink? And he's like, y'all got purple Powerade? I was like, no, sir, we don't have purple Powerade. We have lime, lemon. I'm listing off the flavors by name. He's like, y'all got the purple one?
Oh my God!
No, we don't. I just.
Sir, this is a Wendy's. You're lucky we have a single flavor.
I'm sitting there going back and forth with this guy, and he's just like, you got the purple one, right?
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, look, sir, we don't have the purple one.
Right.
But we have, and I list them off as colors, and he's just like, I guess if you don't got the purple one, just I don't know, do something random. So you know what I fucking did? Having the power of a Coca-Cola freestyle machine?
Tap a bunch of buttons.
I gave him a shot of every kind of Powerade, and you know what it came out to the color of?
Purple.
Purple.
Yeah.
And I was so angry because he pulled up and he's like, oh yeah, you got the purple one, man. And I'm like, how many other places has this man gone to?
He's probably been going to the same Wendy's forever. Not yours, obviously. He's probably been going to the same Wendy's forever, and someone probably offered him a purple one day.
Yeah.
And he got into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so at least we'll be able to catch up on her week next week. Candace has talked more about making her own platform, and I still contend that I believe she is going to buy the InfoWars assets and move the shit into a studio in Nashville. That is still my contention. Until he sells it to someone else provably.
Yeah.
That is still my contention. I bet that when her studio is up and running, it looks a lot like the InfoWars shit. Because you're talking TVs, servers, the whole lot.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think that's going to catch us up for this week.
Yep.
And I'll close out. Do you have anything else to say?
No, not really.
Okay, well, if y'all want to support us on Patreon, you can actually support us on Patreon, the tune of $1 a month, which comes out to about 25 cents an episode, less if we do 5 episodes in a month. that's about it. Please consider supporting our work if you want to get full episodes and downloads, and if you want to get these episodes several days early.
If you're already supporting us on Patreon,
thank you. Yeah. Thank you to the current patrons.
Yeah.
Always, always, always very cool.
Yep.
All right, everybody, that's it for this week. Patrons, we look forward to seeing you ahead of everybody else.
Ciao.
Bye.